year ago, the Yankees appeared invincible. 114 regular season wins and an 11-2 postseason run placed them among history's best. This year, the Yanks are still the team to beat, but they're no longer the prohibitive favorites. 98 wins is impressive. 114 was historic. Still, they've won 2 of the past 3 world championships, and you underestimate them at your peril. If anyone knows this, it's the Texas Rangers, a Yankee stepping stone to their last 2 world titles. A year ago, Texas could muster only 1 run in 3 futile games. They've now lost 6 straight postseason games to New York. But the Rangers boast a trio of potential Hall of Famers, and this is the best Ranger team ever. Will they stop the Bronx Bombers from bullying them again, or will the Yankees toss them aside as they pursue World Championship number 25? Game 1 next.
This is the Sun America NBC pregame show. The 1999 American League Division Series. Tonight, it's Game 1. The Texas Rangers versus the New York Yankees.
A cool, clear night in the Bronx, 53 degrees at Yankee Stadium as game time approaches. New York will send El Duque, Orlando Hernandez, to the mound. He was their top winner this year, 17-9. He's opposed by Texas right-hander Aaron Seeley, who went in one better, winning 18 while losing 9. And welcome to the start of the 1999 postseason on NBC with Joe Morgan. I'm Bob Costas. As we said in that little opening there, the Yankees are still probably the favorites to come out of the American League and make it to the World Series, but not the overwhelming choice they were a year ago.
And there are 2 big reasons for that, Bob. First of all, they do not have David Wells. David Wells was clearly the ace of this staff last year. He was the guy that pitched every big game. He was 5-0 in the postseason. But what they have left now, Orlando Hernandez, Andy Pettitte, and Roger Clemens, 3 of the top starting pitchers in the American League. So they're not hurting there. But what has happened, the Texas Rangers have added Rafael Palmeiro. He is one of the best hitters in all of baseball. And when you add Palmeiro to an already potent lineup that features Ivan Rodriguez and 2-time MVP Juan Gonzalez, you're making it tougher for the Yankees pitching staff. And make no mistake about it, last year the Yankee pitching staff defeated the Texas Rangers, not the offense. But I think the Yankees are going to have to score some runs this year to beat the Texas Rangers.
And that pitching staff is still pretty good when you don't get to David Cone until Game 4. The Rangers also have to clear a psychological hurdle. Since John Burkett beat the Yankees here in Game 1 of the 96 Division Series, they've lost 6 straight postseason games to New York, 29 of 40, and 8 of 12 this year. In addition, the Rangers, at least some of them, have physical problems. With more on that, here's Jim Gray.
All right, thank you very much, Bob. Well, he spoke to Johnny Oates, the Rangers manager, and he informs us that 11 of his players, almost half the entire roster, are struggling with the flu, including 5 starters and his entire infield with the exception of Royce Clayton. Now, this all started on Friday night and has spread throughout the clubhouse. The Rangers have brought in their doctors, and several players before the game were on IVs trying to replenish fluids and prevent further dehydration. Now, I spoke to Oates, and he said several guys were unable to practice, including Danny Patterson, Venefort, and Rusty Greer yesterday. And he says that tonight the weather may be a break for the Rangers because it's so cold here. He figures that it's going to be very difficult for those guys to sweat, and he feels he may have caught a break on the conditions. Bob?
All right, Jim. Hey, you got some guys with the flu in New York. Only one thing to do. Call the Carnegie Deli. Have them send over some chicken soup. Couldn't hurt. Lineups in the opening pitch after this.
This has been the Sun America NBC pregame show. Sun America, the retirement specialist.
Back or hip pain morning after.
The Yankees take the field, beginning the postseason defense of their World Championship, and in pursuit of number 25. Think about that. There actually have been 95 World Championships contested in this century. World Series didn't start till 1903. Then they skipped a year. And, of course, in 94, the season ended before they could play a World Series. Potentially, they could win 25 of 95 in the century. The Budweiser starting lineup, the 4 hitters 2 through 5, all topped 100 RBIs. And Zeal in the number 6 slot just missed with 98. Rafael Palmeiro continuing his march toward the Hall of Fame. Second behind Manny Ramirez in slugging percentage. Second in the league to Ramirez in RBIs. And one behind Ken Griffey Jr., 47-48, for the league home run leadership.
And the thing that impresses me about this lineup, Bob, is that you have a left-handed hitter, right-handed hitter, left-handed hitter, right-handed hitter, all through the lineup. You cannot bring in a reliever and let him pitch to 2 or 3 hitters in a row. This is almost a perfect lineup. That's how you try to match your lineup. And this is the lineup that Orlando Hernandez will have to face. And the key to me, Bob, is he's going to have to be able to pitch these left-handers inside to keep them honest. But pitching them inside here at Yankee Stadium, if you make the slightest mistake, they will pop it into the right field stand. So he's going to have sharp control, and he's going to have to be able to change speeds well. And let's take a look at the defense behind Hernandez. And they've highlighted Chuck Knobloch, and you can see why. He had 26 errors, and that led all Major League second basemen in errors. And he has struggled at times with his throwing this year. But he's a gamer, and he's played well in the past, and the Yankees only hope that he can bounce back.
Back at the plate, Jorge Posada has committed 17 pass balls. It's a very high figure. There's no knuckleballer on this staff. This isn't Jason Varitek trying to handle Tim Wakefield in Boston. 17 pass balls, and he doesn't even catch close to every day because Girardi gets some of the work.
But one of the things we should know, Bob, is with those errors, they have given up 30 more unearned runs this year than they did last year. That tells you that they're not playing nearly as well defensively. But it's almost impossible to play as well as the Yankees did last year. I mean, they won more games than anybody in the history of the American League. So you can't always measure them against last year's standards. There's Joe Girardi. He's part of the catching corps. And there you see Joe Torre and Don Zimmer. And Don Zimmer is one of those guys that we always look at, and they call him Popeye. He has a baseball face.
I guess.
Popeye.
51 years in baseball. At age 68, filled in as the manager when prostate cancer early in the season sidelined Joe Torre for the campaign's first 6 weeks. Mark McLemore heading toward the plate to start it off. A year ago, these teams met in the first round. The Yankees swept it. They came in 26 games better than Texas for the regular season. This year, they're separated by only 3 games. Brocious in close at third. A strike at the knees. The plate umpire is Jim Joyce. Chuck Merriweather at first. Tim Welke at second. Crew chief Jim McKean at third. Left field line John Shulock. Right field line Durwood Merrill. 0-2. El Duque led the Yankees in innings pitched. Almost always will get you to the 7th inning and maybe through it, and then turn it over to the bullpen. A line drive to right. O'Neill comes on to take it.
Well, we mentioned that he's going to have to pitch the left-handers inside to keep them honest. He got 2 strikes on McLemore, and he comes inside. He jammed him just enough that he couldn't get much lumber on it. But if he moves that ball out over the plate, he will have problems.
On the other hand, he's murder on right-handed hitters with the variety of breaking stuff and that arm angle of his.
And here's Ivan Rodriguez. I mean, you cannot discount him at the top of your list for the most valuable player in the league. He plays a very difficult position. He puts up all the offensive numbers of all the other big guys, and he can steal bases as well.
Fouled away. Unless you're going to vote Pedro Martinez, the Cy Young Award winner and the MVP, I think if you're going with an everyday player, despite the great seasons that others have enjoyed in the American League, this would be my choice.
And I think you just made the point of why an everyday player should get the nod. Nothing against Martinez. He's going to win the Cy Young Award. But when you have everyday players who are deserving, I think it should go to one of them.
A line drive toward the gap in right center. Williams and O'Neill in pursuit. This ball is really carrying, and it's off the wall on the fly. Rodriguez pulls in with a 1-out double.
And that's the approach that he always takes. He's always going towards right field. If you hang something inside, he will pull it. But watch the pitch. It doesn't matter whether the fastball's inside or out over the plate. He still takes everything the other way. And watch the pitch. Out over the plate, and he rips it in the right center field. Stays back and uses his hands. Beautiful swing there by Ivan Rodriguez. And he does that very well, going the other way.
Now Rusty Greer, easy to overlook in a power-laden lineup like this, but he knocked in 101. Orlando Hernandez is 1-2 lifetime against Texas, 0-1 this year. Didn't face them in the division series in '98. He was 2-0 in last year's postseason. Beat the Indians in the LCS, the Padres in the World Series. That victory in Cleveland in Game 4, the only time the Yankees really had their backs to the wall in the entire regular or postseason. They were down 2-1. That was the single biggest game pitched by any Yankee in '98. Threw 7 shutout innings that day. Down and in, 2-1.
And Bob, that's the reason that Joe Torre decided to start Orlando Hernandez. He says he still remembers that game he pitched in Cleveland last year. And he also knows that he still has Andy Pettitte, David Cone, and Roger Clemens to fall back on.
The 2-1 pitch. Misses, 3 balls and a strike. With Gonzalez waiting on deck. Rodriguez away from second. He doubled with 1 out. The 3-1 pitch to Rusty Greer. Misses inside. 2 on for Juan Gonzalez. An RBI spot for a guy who's been an RBI machine. He's driven in 560 runs in the last 564 games he's played.
And this is where Rafael Palmeiro really has a presence in this lineup. They know that if they pitch around Juan Gonzalez, they're going to have to deal with Palmeiro. And I think that helps Gonzalez to know that he doesn't have to take all the pressure when they have runners in scoring position.
El Duque works to him and gets ahead 0-1. Like everyone else in the Ranger lineup, Gonzalez was throttled last year in the Yankees' 3-game sweep. But even though Texas lost in 4 games in '96, Gonzalez just about destroyed the Yankees. He had 5 home runs in the 4 games. The 0-1. In on his hands, popped wide of first. Martinez near the railing, no play. A reminder, Joe, of what any opposing pitcher is looking at when he addresses the heart of this Ranger order. 4 guys with better than 100 RBIs. Can you imagine knocking in 148 and not leading the league? Matty Ramirez had 165 for Cleveland. The 0-2 pitch. Stopped by Posada. A ball and 2 strikes.
Just watching the pattern that Hernandez is using here against Gonzalez. He wants to get him out with a breaking ball away, but you have to come inside every once in a while. He came in tight, and he got the foul pop-up. You have to establish that you will come inside, or a guy like Gonzalez will go out over the plate and hurt you on any breaking ball that is a strike.
Duque made Gonzalez wait too long. Remember in that Game 4 start at Cleveland, he was in deep first-inning trouble. Jim Thome launched one to right and barely missed sending it out. El Duque survived that and pitched 7 shutout innings. In trouble in the first here. Off-speed pitch misses, 2-2.
One of the things you learn watching Juan Gonzalez is that he may swing at a few bad pitches early in the count, but he becomes more patient as he gets deeper into the count.
El Duque wheels and looks Rodriguez back to second. You don't see many pitchers anymore with elaborate motions. In that sense, El Duque is a throwback.
And he hides the ball very well with that high leg kick.
Now the 2-2. Got a piece of it.
Good pitch. I mean, that was an off-speed sidearm breaking ball, and all Gonzalez could do was foul it off. He did a great job of just fouling it off. He doesn't go with the high leg kick here, but he comes sidearm and he takes a lot off of it. Now watch where the pitch is, breaking off the plate, and Gonzalez just gets a piece of it.
Another 2-2 pitch. Come out and missed.
Beautiful pitch. Well, he definitely wanted to get him out with a breaking ball away. So he starts him off with a breaking ball away. Then he keeps him honest by coming inside. Now everything else is away. You only have to come inside once to keep him honest, and he did that. So he kept teasing him until he got him to go for the bad pitch off the plate. That is Orlando Hernandez at his best right there against a right-handed hitter. But this is, again, why I like the Texas lineup. Now he doesn't have that same pattern that he can use here against Palmeiro. He has to change his pattern here. So you can't get in a groove if you're not facing 2 or 3 right-handers in a row.
Palmeiro brings some gaudy numbers to the plate, but not against El Duque. Hitless in 11 career at-bats versus Hernandez. Hernandez from Villa Clara, Cuba, facing Palmeiro, born in Havana. Ball 1. He's got Posada's sign. And his 1-0 pitch. 2-0 to Palmeiro. Todd Zeile on deck.
The great thing about Palmeiro, Bob, is that he can handle any pitch, whether it be a changeup, curveball, slider, and he can hit them all out of the ballpark. So you have to always make a quality pitch, no matter what pitch you choose to throw.
The hitter's pitch on 2-0. He runs it out to 3 balls and no strikes.
And he definitely doesn't want to throw him a fastball. That was a 2-0 changeup after he threw a 1-0 changeup. And there will be times in this series, this may not be the time, but where if they get Juan Gonzalez out, they will definitely pitch around Rafael Palmeiro.
Palmeiro's got a green light here, I'm sure, if he sees something he likes.
Definitely.
It's in there.
A lot of hitters do not like to swing 3-0 because they will swing at any pitch that comes up there. And again, Palmeiro doesn't have to hit cripples to be a good hitter.
Hernandez working very deliberately, and now Posada wants to talk with him. The Hernandez family has been a major presence in the last 2 baseball postseasons. Half-brother Livan Hernandez, now with the Giants, was 4-0 for the Marlins in '97, including 2 World Series victories. And then El Duque wins his only 2 starts in October last year. The 3-1 pitch. Just off the outside corner, and the bases are loaded.
And you can tell by his expression, El Duque wasn't really upset that he didn't throw a strike there.
Everything's relative, so maybe he'd rather face Zeal, but Zeal for his career is a .524 hitter with the bases loaded. As you see, he has 7 career grand slams, 2 of them this year.
Just the makeup of this lineup is why I think this is a much better Texas team than the Yankee pitching staff faced last year.
Cuts on the first one and comes up empty.
Todd Zeal is also a guy that will look for pitches early in the count, and right there he looked like he was looking for a fastball first pitch. He didn't get it. Now he will change his pattern a little bit, and he likes to shoot the ball to right center field too.
Bases loaded, 2 out, top of the first. A ball and a strike to Zeal. Torre was Zeal's manager in St. Louis and did with him what had been done with Torre himself in his own playing career. Switched him from catcher to third base. El Duque in hot water on a chilly night. Brings it home on 1-1 and gets ahead now, a ball and 2 strikes. They come to their feet at Yankee Stadium. Rodriguez, Greer, and Palmeiro lead away. And the 1-2 pitch. Struck him out. He walked 2, he fanned 2, and he stranded 3. Rangers threatened, didn't break through in the top of the first. And mistakenly, we're looking at their lineup. They'll bat again in the next inning. How about the Yanks, you say? Well, it'll be Knobloch, Jeter, and O'Neill in the bottom of the first. Here they come. Jeter finished second behind Nomar Garciaparra of the Red Sox, 349 to 357 in the batting race, and led the majors with 219 hits. Like Texas, the Yankees have 4 100 RBI men. But without disparaging any of those performances, it doesn't mean what it once did. 59 major leaguers drove in 100 or more this year. 59.
That has to be a record, I would assume. And there's Aaron Seeley. The difference in Seeley this year, he's always relied on his curveball when he got in trouble in the past. This year, he's using his fastball a little bit more. And let's take a look at the defense behind him. Ivan Rodriguez, 1 pass ball the entire season. And he's probably going to win another Gold Glove.
Probably.
Yeah,
put that in the bank.
Unbelievable. He is such a great catcher that you take the running game out of the way. You may hit and run, but you do not have many guys trying just a straight steal against him.
He threw out 53% of would-be base stealers. No one else in the American League even reached 40%. The Yankee catchers, just as a point of comparison, Posada and Girardi, each around 20 to 25%. And there isn't a lefty among the Texas starters, so he's not getting that much help holding runners close. That's one of the reasons why he'll win his 8th consecutive Gold Glove. He also had 9 pickoffs. You can't rest easy. At first, second, or third, he'll fire on you. 2-0 to Knobloch.
Well, Knobloch has been swinging the bat very well lately. He's been more patient at the plate. He's a very good high ball hitter, so you have to make sure you stay down, and that's what Seeley's trying to do here.
Three 3-0 to the Yankee leadoff man. who hit .292 for the year. High for ball 4. Knobloch wasn't certain. On 4 pitches, he walks to start the Yankee first.
Well, the one thing you can't do if you're the Texas Rangers is help the Yankees. You cannot add base runners without them getting base hits. You have to make them earn everything that they're going to get. And you can see a little frustration there on Johnny Oates' face. If a guy gets a base hit, it doesn't bother him. But just do not walk hitters to give them a chance to come around and score runs.
Jeter to the plate. O'Neill on deck. And he still hasn't thrown a strike. Rodriguez out to talk with him. If you hear any rap on Ivan Rodriguez, some say he is not a great handler of pitchers, which is different from defensive skill.
Well, I guess they have to find something wrong with him. Otherwise, he'd be perfect. I think he's just a great catcher.
Seeley has his sign. And the 1-0 pitch. 2-0. Aaron Seeley is 29 years old, 6'5", 220, former Red Sox. Never did as well with them as he has the past 2 years with Texas. He was an All-Star in '98, and he's second in total victories the last 2 years in the American League, second only to Pedro Martinez. Fouled off, and that's the first strike that Seeley has thrown, if it was a strike. Just missed being a 20-game winner in '98. Came back to win 18 this year. 4-7 lifetime against the Yankees. 1-0 this year. Beat Roger Clemens at Yankee Stadium in June. Seeley was the loser in the series clincher for the Yankees, Game 3 at Arlington last year. That was the game that could have been played with an arc on the field. 3.5-hour rain delay. Cone and the Yankees closed them out 4-0. 2-2.
Well, the one thing I'm noticing about Seeley, he has a lot of movement on his fastball. He's not throwing a straight fastball, so he's getting movement. And the one thing you have to always be aware of is he has a great curveball. We have not seen it so far in this game because he was behind every hitter, but he has a great curveball.
The 2-2 pitch. Did Jeter lay off? He tipped it back into the glove of Rodriguez. Attempted check swing, but he made contact with it, and Rodriguez held it.
Well, he went with a high fastball. Jeter tries to check, but he gets a foul tip, and it's strike 3 as it's held on to by the catcher, Ivan Rodriguez.
I don't know whether Jeter is more displeased with the call or with his at-bat.
Well, I think he figured he had one good pitch to hit. 2 balls and 1 strike was a good pitch to hit, and he fouled it back.
O'Neill hit .285, 19 homers, 110 runs driven in. 0-1 as a manager. Joe Torre let him manage the last game of the year at Tampa Bay, and he lost 6-2. Maybe he'll follow in the footsteps of another fiery Yankee right fielder, Lou Piniella, into the managerial ranks. Ball 1 to him. He's playing with a bruised right side, but he says he's close to 100%. He ran into the low barrier in foul ground in Tampa Bay over the weekend. Curveball for a strike.
And there's the great curveball he has. And you have to use your curveball. You cannot just stand here and throw a lot of fastballs to these Yankee hitters. Here's the curveball, and look at the location. Right on the outside corner.
As I recall, O'Neill took a Seeley curveball the opposite way for a home run in the Game 3 win in the division series last October. Rolled foul, 1-2. The difference, scouts say, between Seeley with the Red Sox when he was a more tentative pitcher and now is that he used to use the curve to set up the fastball. Now he's using the fastball to set up the curve.
Well, what he did before, anytime he got in trouble, you knew that he was going to go to the curveball. And there are a lot of hitters in the major leagues who can hit the curveball when it's a strike. But what you do, if you can get ahead with the fastball, and then you can get him to chase the breaking ball when it starts in the strike zone and breaks out of the zone.
The 1-2 pitch. Up and in, 2-2. Knobloch at first has swiped 28 bases. And he's been caught 9 times. Seeley, like Hernandez, working very deliberately. There goes Knobloch. And a drive to center. Back goes Goodwin. Almost to the track to take it. And retreating to first is Knobloch with 2 down.
Well, he got the fastball in just enough that O'Neill couldn't drive it out of center field. Watch where the pitch in is up a little bit and in on the hands. Right there, he doesn't get to it. And he knows right there that he didn't get it. Take a look and we'll see this pitch in on the fist on the inside part of the plate, and he jammed it.
So that'll leave it up to Bernie Williams. The batting champion a year ago at 339 hiked it 3 points to 342, but finished 3rd behind Garcia-Pera and Jeter.
Bob Knobloch was running on the pitch, and I think he was running because he expected a curveball to be thrown to O'Neill, and he's trying to pick his spots like that. If you can figure out when he's going to throw a curveball, you have a chance of stealing even on Ivan Rodriguez.
Fastball high. In the offseason, the Rangers, who are one of the more free-spending teams in the majors, pursued Roger Clemens and especially Randy Johnson, hoping to come up with a true ace to start a series like this. No disrespect intended towards Seeley, a very capable pitcher at 18-9, but not an ace in the sense of a Pedro Martinez, a Johnson, or the Clemens of old.
There are not many of those anywhere, but I think one reason they wanted Randy Johnson as well is because you like to throw left-handers against this Yankee ball club. And it's ironic that Texas doesn't have a left-hander to start, and neither does Cleveland. So it could be interesting. There's Roger Clemens.
Slated to start Game 3 in Texas. Seeley works 1-1. Hits softly into center. Goodwin racing in. Gets there. Nice tumbling catch by Tom Goodwin to conclude the Yankee first. No score after 1 in the Bronx. Our aerial views are courtesy of the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Overhead, Goodyear blimps Stars and Stripes, based in Pompano Beach, Florida. They started up here from Pompano Beach just after the All-Star game and arrived moments before game time.
This inning catch by Goodwin was tougher than it appeared because the ball was hit off the end of the bat. Bernie Williams took a big swing, and a lot of times a guy will break back because the hitter takes a big swing, but he got a great jump on it. And he comes in and makes the tumbling catch. When a hitter takes a big swing, the first inclination is to start back. But he hit that off the end of the bat, and he got a great jump on it.
Bottom of the order. In the top of the second, Stevens, Clayton, and Goodwin. A couple of things changed for Lee Stevens this year. He was going to platoon at DH with the right-handed hitting Mike Sims. Sims got hurt before the season started. Fouled away for strike 1. He thought he'd be the DH. Instead, he wound up playing first base for the most part, with Palmeiro DHing because of a balky knee. And Stevens, who had never hit left-handers well, hit over 300 against southpaws this year and was an unsung hero in all departments for the Rangers. El Duque moves him away, a ball and a strike.
This is the thing I think El Duque has to settle down, make sure that he has all his pitches working, and just try to establish that he's in control out there on the mound.
In the air down the left field line, coming over Ricky Leday, but it's in the seats. Watching El Duque work now out of a full windup with no one on base. You used to hear this said all the time. Stylish left-hander, stylish right-hander. Guys with distinctive motions. Warren Spahn, Juan Marichal, Luis Tiant, Koufax, Palmer, Drysdale. Something kids could imitate, the way they imitate a hitter's batting stance. Generally speaking, pitchers' motions are more compact these days. Squib toward third, tricky hop for Brocious, but he takes care of Stevens. But El Duque isn't just good, he's fun to watch.
Yes, he is fun to watch. Very athletic, great fielder. This is the pitch, as I said, what I think is the key for him. To be able to get the fastball in on the left-handed hitters. He cannot throw the off-speed breaking ball to the left-handed hitters and get them to chase it as he does the right-handed hitters. So to combat the left-handed hitters, he can come inside with the fastball, throw the changeup away.
Royce Clayton to the plate. Fouls off strike one. The official story is that Orlando Hernandez will be 30 in a few days, October 11th. According to Roberto Gonzalez Echeverria, the Yale professor who wrote the definitive book about the history of Cuban baseball called The Pride of Havana, El Duque is actually 34, or will be.
Well, the question is, you're going to believe El Duque or somebody else that wrote the book?
In this case, I'm inclined to believe somebody else. And by the way, Echeverria is totally sympathetic to El Duque and others like him who had, in effect, their youth taken away by the system in Cuba and their earning power taken away. Why not shave a few years off if you can get away with it and extend your career now that you're making some dough in the U.S.? 2-1 the count.
I guess I always know the day my mom told me I was born.
In the air to shallow right, down the line, may not be playable, and it's in the seats. Now, you never checked the birth certificate. You just took your mom's word for it, right?
Well, I have seen the birth certificate, but I would take her word first, yes. And I'm sure that's what El Duque did.
You know, and generally speaking, when you're 4 or 5 years old and you look in the mirror, you're not telling yourself, they tell me I'm 4 or 5, but I look like I'm 11. It doesn't work that way. One out, nobody on. Clayton, with 288 this year with 14 homers, awaits a 2-2 pitch. Swings and misses, the third strikeout of the game for El Duque.
And what he's been able to do against the right-handed hitters after he got Gonzalez to chase the breaking ball in the dirt is that he gets them looking for the off-speed pitch, and he's been able to throw the fastball by them. He did the same thing to Todd Zeile, and he does it here again to Royce Clayton. They're sitting on the breaking ball because that's the toughest pitch for them to handle, and before you know it, he's throwing the fastball by you.
The fans keep track, and Goodwin stands in, taking ball one. A natural leadoff hitter whose on-base percentage has plummeted, so they slip him down to number 9, which a lot of American League managers regard as a second leadoff spot anyway. In on his fists, a soft fly to center, and in contrast to the first, when the Rangers loaded the bases without scoring, they go in order against El Duque in the second.
Hours of television this season.
Joe, as you mentioned, a year ago, Texas actually pitched well against the Yankees and lost the 3 division series games 2-0, 3-1, and 4-0. Johnny Oates sent Todd Stottlemyre to the mound against David Wells in game 1. Stottlemyre pitched well on the short end of the 2-0 score. Then he left and went to Arizona as a free agent. And as we noted, they were unable to acquire a big-name free agent pitcher on their own, such as a Clemens or a Johnson. So now it falls to Aaron Seeley in game 1, Rick Helling game 2, and Loaiza will pitch game 3. Hard to imagine a lineup as potent as Texas's, even though they didn't have Palmeiro a year ago, hitting 141 even in a short 3-game stretch. Curve for a strike to Tino Martinez. Martinez really feasted on Ranger pitching this year. 396 against Texas with 6 home runs. Another curve drops in at the knees. Beauty.
And those are 2 different pitches, Bob. He started one on the inside part of the plate. Now he backdoors him with the curveball, starts it off the plate outside and hits the outside corner.
A third curveball. This one is fouled in the dirt, and it got a piece of Rodriguez.
And with 2 strikes, you can see what Rodriguez did. Watch Rodriguez. He puts his glove all the way on the ground. Watch it. He tells him he wants it down, and he throws it down. And that's what you want to do when you're ahead in the count. Even bounce the curveball and see if you can get him to chase it. Martinez got a piece of that.
And a fastball sliced foul. Aaron Seeley's wife, Jennifer, is at home in Seattle watching this one on television, expecting their first child any day now. Aaron's thoughts obviously with her. Another 0-2 pitch. Hit hard. A leadoff single for Martinez. Folks, you can go in depth on every game of baseball's postseason by logging on to MSNBCSports.com. Comprehensive total casts, pitch-by-pitch updates, real-time box scores, an interactive look at each of the division series, complete with player matchups. And you can vote online for which teams you feel will advance in the postseason. MSNBCSports.com, the official website of NBC Sports. Huge ovation for Darryl Strawberry. He had only 49 at-bats after returning from a variety of problems.
And Joe Torre said it was a very difficult decision for him to make, to sit Chili Davis and give Darryl Strawberry the opportunity to play. But he needed that presence of a big bat in the lineup. Just his presence causes problems for the opposing pitcher.
Chili's 1-0 pitch is in there. You can see he's still feared. He got 17 walks, 49 official at-bats, 17 walks. He's still a presence.
There's Chili Davis, and Joe Torre said both of them made it difficult for him because they both said, whatever you want to do, Skip.
Seeley with real command.
And
a shaky start in the first, but he settled in.
That's a very difficult pitch for a left-hander to handle. That ball starts off the plate outside, and all of a sudden it catches the outside corner. You give up on it, and it clips the outside edge.
Here's the 1-2. A curveball rolled slowly to second. McLemore gets the force to Clayton. On to first. Strawberry beat it there.
McLemore didn't handle the ball cleanly, and he took a little longer to get the ball to Clayton than he really wanted to. Now watch. This is a double play situation, but see, he couldn't get out of his glove properly. Then he gives him the underhand toss, and a nice slide there at second base by Tino. And Darryl clearly safe at first base.
So that'll bring up Posada. One difference between the Yankees of a year ago, who outscored their opponents by an almost ridiculous margin of 309 runs, and this year's team, which was a still impressive plus 169, but nothing like a year ago, is that the bottom third of the order, the 7, 8, and 9 spots, have not produced in '99 as they did in '98.
Well, they scored 70 fewer runs this year. They had a dozen fewer home runs. I mean, they did not have the same type of numbers that they had last year. Even their earned run average was a third of a run higher. And as I mentioned earlier, they had 30 more earned runs against them than they did the year before.
The 1-0 pitch, foul back. Posada, though, is still a dangerous hitter, especially in this ballpark from the left side. He's a switch hitter, but Joe Girardi gets a considerable number of the starts against left-handers. And Girardi will catch Pettit tomorrow night in Game 2. Actually, it's not tomorrow. There's an off night because of the strange scheduling to accommodate television in the division series. Game 2 won't be played until Thursday night here. 1-2.
And Seeley seems to be settling in, as did El Duque here in the second inning. If you watch the location of his pitches, watching Ivan Rodriguez give him the target, and he's hitting the target.
Strawberry a short lead at first. Posada lofts one to left. Greer over toward the line. And right on the chalk, he makes the catch. 2 down.
Another good pitch, that backdoor curveball. Started off the plate and just came in over the outside corner. Not a lot that Posada could do with it. Watch the target that Ivan Rodriguez gives. Look at the target. Now watch where this pitch would have ended up. Right on the target. Here's from behind the plate. This is the view Rodriguez gets. Right on the outside edge. And Posada hits the fly ball to left field. That's really spotting the curveball well. Normally with a curveball, you just try to throw a strike with it. But Seeley is moving the curveball around, inside and outside.
Now Ricky Leday with 276 with 9 home runs, platooning in left field with Chad Curtis. But Leday is going to get all the work in this series because the Rangers have no lefty starters. So Curtis will come off the bench if he plays at all. Shane Spencer, who was such a sensation toward the end of last year, did not make the roster for this series. He could be added if they get as far as the LCS. They go instead with utility man Clay Bellinger for the 25th spot. Strawberry's running, and the pitch is fouled back to the screen.
Well, what they're counting on here is Seeley getting lazy and not checking the runner at first base. And they feel like, hey, if I can get a great jump, then I'm going to be able to steal the base. Joe Torre comes out and talks to the home plate umpire, Jim Joyce. I think what he's saying is that Rodriguez is reaching out too soon and not waiting for the ball, as we see Darryl slide into second base. Rodriguez always goes forward to catch the ball, which allows him a better chance of throwing the runner out. And Joe Torre is trying to say that he interfered with Ricky Leday's swing there.
Seeley's ahead of him 0-2 and misses high and away. Speaking of Shane Spencer, remember last year he was doing some kind of Joe Hardy act out of damn Yankees. There he is in uniform but not eligible in this series. He had 10 homers in his first 67 big league at-bats and then homered twice in the 3 games against Texas. He's come back to earth a bit this year. 8 homers in 205 at-bats. Former replacement player who made it to the big leagues after many years in the minors. And for a while was leading a charmed life. Brocious on deck if Leday reaches. Full count.
Bob, you know, talking about Shane Spencer, pitchers make adjustments to you. They change how you're pitching to you when you're hitting a lot of home runs. That's why it's so almost impossible to think what Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa did again this year, because pitchers made a lot of adjustments, tried a lot of different things with them.
Strawberry goes on the 3-2 pitch, and they'll have to come back. Now, say what you want about the explosion in offense, and it has certainly gotten to the point where comparisons to even 5-6 years ago are impractical. When 45 players hit more than 30 home runs, something's out of whack. But Nobody besides Sosa or McGuire hit more than 48 in either league, and these guys are up in the mid-60s for a second year in a row. Another 3-2 pitch. Line to left. Greer has it, get past it, and Strawberry's going to come all the way around to score. Leday on his way to second. Straw scores. Leday stops with what has to be scored as a double, although Greer misplayed it in left.
Well, Bobby clearly lost the ball in the light, and he was trying to get below the bank of lights behind the Yankee dugout. This ball is smoked to left field, but now Greer gets there, but there are a bank of lights behind the Yankees dugout. Now watch him, he will get down. See right there, he ducks his head because he lost sight of the ball. The lights got in his eyes and he lost the ball.
Many a young player has been cowed by the bright lights of New York. In this case, literally.
Now watch this line drive. Now watch his head right there. He turns it away from the ball. He's not even looking to see where the ball is. He's just trying to protect himself.
Now Brocious trying to add to the 1-0 Yankee lead. A ball and a strike. A year ago, Brocious had the season of his life. He hit .300 with 19 homers, 98 RBIs, had a huge postseason. He was the World Series MVP. This year, the numbers have leveled off more than a bit. Seeley's 1-1 pitch. A called strike 2. The Yankee GM Brian Cashman says we got to give Scott a mulligan for this year. His dad Maury passed away in September, died at age 55 of cancer, and much of the year Brocious was preoccupied with his struggle for life. In fact, leaving the team on occasion to be with him. The 1-2 hit sharply but right at McLemore. The Yankees settled for 1 in the second. And after 2 at Yankee Stadium. New York 1, Texas 0.
Gave the Yankees a 1-0 lead. Greer's there, but all of a sudden he can't find the ball. You can see he definitely doesn't know where the ball is. He reaches for it and then it goes by. Now as he comes in the dugout, this is such a class as far as I'm concerned. Watch Aaron Seeley. Here's the guy that he cost a run, and he comes up and pats him on the back. Now watch as he goes by. His teammates will say, hey man, we understand. And you see guys coming up to him. And no one feels worse about it than Rusty Greer. And that's breaks of the game.
Tough Alabaman who plays the game hard, Rusty Greer. Breaking ball from El Duque is down and in to Mark McLemore, starting the 3rd.
But you can see the look in his face. Even though his teammates have patted him on the back, said it's okay, he knows how important it is for them to play well defensively and not to make any mistakes here.
Center field, Bernie Williams late break, but has time to close ground on it.
When you're the underdog and you're in the home team's park, you have to play flawlessly to beat a team like the Yankees. The Yankees are a very experienced and professional-like team. I mean, they go about their job in a professional way, so you cannot make mistakes or give them extra outs or give them runs. But, I mean, nothing he could do about that. The ball just got in the lights.
Greer now on deck as Rodriguez bats with 1 out on the 3rd. He doubled off the right field wall in his first at-bat. Rodriguez's .332 average was the highest by an American League catcher since the Yankees' Bill Dickey in 1936. And he hit .374 after the All-Star break. This in addition to his unparalleled defensive prowess. A ball and a strike. So let me put this question to you. It almost seems like heresy, but is he as good as Johnny Bench?
Well, I think defensively you'd have to say yes, he's in Bench's category, but remember Johnny Bench was a guy that led the league in RBIs, hit 45 home runs. I mean, he did a lot of things offensively that Rodriguez hasn't done yet, but
when 45 homers and 120 or so RBIs meant something different than it does today.
You're right. I mean, look at those numbers. I mean, he steals bases, plays defense, drives in runs, and hits for a high average. You can't ask for any more than that.
The 1-2 from that sidearm angle, outside, 2-2. Ted Simmons, who is now a vice president with the San Diego Padres, but one of the outstanding catchers in the National League and later in the American League when he went to the Brewers before they switched back to the National League. Ted Simmons told me that Rodriguez's footwork is better than Bench's. Best he's seen, the quickest feet he's seen.
Well, they were their styles were a little different.
A broken bat bloop into center, and Bernie Williams can't get there. So Rodriguez is 2 for 2. Go ahead, Joe.
Bench was a power catcher. I mean, he had a great throwing arm. And Rodriguez has a little more finesse behind the plate. Gets rid of the ball very quickly. Here's Rodriguez. Look at that. He keeps his front shoulder in. That's why he's such a good hitter. Every swing he takes, he's aiming everything towards right field. See how he goes into the ball? Everything's going towards right field. And he's able to flip one in the center field, but good hitters do that.
Now Rusty Greer trying to atone for his misplay of a moment ago. Juan Gonzalez will be next. The 1-0 pitch is high.
We'll see if Rodriguez tries to steal a base here. Hernandez gives you a little time to run. He will change his pitching motion every once in a while. He'll speed it up, but he still gives you a little time to run. Anytime a pitcher drops down to throw sidearm, it takes him a little longer to release the ball than it does a guy that's throwing from a 3/4 motion.
2 balls and a strike to Rusty Greer. Rodriguez at first, uncommonly fast for a catcher, stole 25 and was caught 12 times.
And if you would like, this is a perfect hit and run situation. 2 balls, 1 strike, 1 out.
And El Duque chases him back. Rodriguez goes. Here's Posada's throw. Rodriguez steals it. The ball skips into center. Rodriguez thinks better of trying to advance.
Good job by Bernie Williams of backing up that play, because otherwise he would have gone to third. But this is what Rodriguez can give you that other catchers can't. He gets a good jump, and the throw is not a good throw, but I'm not sure he would have had him anyway. You see he's in there before the ball gets there. But he jumps up, and he can't go any further because of Bernie Williams. Here's the throw by Posada. He throws it low, but you can see that Rodriguez was there, and he wisely holds up because Bernie Williams is right on top of the play.
Now Hernandez behind in the count to Greer, 3-1, and he steps off. So Rodriguez has doubled, singled, and stolen a base, and we're just in the top of the 3rd. And Greer walks for the 2nd straight time. Coming up on NBC. That's what you want, a chief executive who's a man of decisive action. West Wing, a new addition to the NBC lineup Wednesdays. Hernandez has walked 3, struck out 3. Gonzalez could get the Rangers 3 with 1 swing. 2 on, 1 out. Off-speed breaking pitch and a beauty for strike 1.
Juan Gonzalez uses the entire field, but he has more power to left field, of course, because he's such a strong hitter, but he can't hit the ball out in any direction.
It doesn't get any easier. Palmeiro waits on deck. Gonzalez struck out swinging with 2 men on in the 1st. A Ball and a strike. Earlier today, Houston got the jump on the Braves. Reynolds beat Maddox 6-1. Caminiti had a homer. They go up 1-0 in the series. Later tonight in Arizona, the Mets survived a wild final weekend in the one-game playoff with Cincinnati. Open against Randy Johnson and the Diamondbacks. There's the final from Turner Field.
And if you're the Houston Astros, you probably feel like you got a monkey off your back. Greg Maddux and the Braves have beaten them continuously in the playoffs in the past.
A ball and 2 strikes.
He's made 2 great pitches on Gonzalez. He has hit the outside edge with sliders, off-speed sliders.
The way he can change speeds, and he comes at you with that motion and those arm angles. If you're a right-handed hitter, even a great one like Gonzalez, this guy's a handful. And the 1-2. In the air to right center field. Bernie Williams sprinting over on the move. A sliding catch. Rodriguez tags and moves to third. Gonzalez robbed by Williams. And Texas now has runners at the corners with 2 out for Palmeiro.
And that was a great play by Bernie Williams. When this ball was first hit, I thought it was in the gap. Williams gets a great jump on it. And what he does perfectly here is he cuts the angle off. He didn't circle it, and he gets there and he makes the catch. I mean, you can see that he's going all out. I'm going to catch this baseball. He wasn't even worried about where Paul O'Neill was. He made up his mind he was going to make the catch, and he did.
So now Palmeiro, who walked in the first. Gold Glove winner as a first baseman each of the last 2 seasons. But the DH because of a bad knee, with Stevens doing most of the work at first in '99. Another chance for Williams. Going back. Ball carrying, but not far enough. He'll take it to end it. The Rangers threaten, but don't score. They lead 2 and still trail 1-0.
Welcome back to Yankee Stadium. I'm Jim Gray. Before the game, a very special scene. Yogi Berra, who played in 14 World Series and won 10 World Championships throughout the first pitch. It had been 14 years. Yogi, you came back and threw out the opening pitch, opening day. What's it been like for you to be back as part of the Yankee family this year?
Well, it's been great. George has been real great, and I really enjoy it. You get to come out here and see all the guys and everything, and it's a lot of fun.
You get dressed early. Do you still get goosebumps coming out to the game?
Well, I was out here at 3:30 today. I was out there that early, and the game don't start till 8:10 or something like that tonight.
How excited are you about the prospects of possibly being named to the All-Century team next week?
Well, if I am, I'm going to be real happy. I really will.
Yogi, finally, were you intentionally funny with all this stuff? It's never over till it's over, and so forth. A lot of the things that you said. Were you intentionally funny, or did it just come out?
It just came out to me. I really don't know I said them all. I really didn't. It just comes out to me. That's it.
Yogi, great to see everybody's happy. All Yankee fans and baseball fans to see you back at the stadium.
All right, thank you very much.
Bob, back to you.
And Chuck Knobloch spanks one to left for a leadoff hit in the Yankee third.
That was a pretty good curveball from Seeley, and Knobloch just went down and got it and ripped it to left field for a base hit. Now watch the location. It's down, which is what you want with a curveball. Look at that. I mean, that's a pretty good pitch. And you have to give him credit. This is good hitting. Here's a breaking ball, and he ripped it to left field.
Great to see Yogi, though.
Yes, it is. I mean, Yogi's one of my special friends. We go away and play golf together in the winter.
Now, the Yankees lost Joe DiMaggio and Catfish Hunter this year, but they welcomed Yogi back after a 14-year estrangement. He and Mr. Steinbrenner patched it up. I don't think Yogi has to wonder. He's going to make that all-century team. According to the balloting I've seen, he finishes second in the fan voting for the all-century team at the catcher spot, behind Johnny Bench, your old teammate. They'll make the official announcement in a few days and introduce the team at the World Series. Strike one to Jeter, who struck out in the first. The Yankees have put the leadoff man on in all 3 innings so far. Speaking of DiMaggio, the number 5, of course, is in honor of the late Yankee Clipper. Rodriguez bluffs the throw, but Knobloch well aware that half the time he isn't bluffing. He's picked off 9 runners this year.
And when the right-handed hitter up there and the ball's toward the outside corner, he's almost in throwing position before he catches the ball.
That's that footwork Ted Simmons was talking about.
He does have great footwork.
Seeley's 0-2 pitch to Jeter. He reaches for it, rolls it slowly and foul towards Zio. Baseball tomorrow. ESPN has Game 2, Astros-Braves. Joe Buck, Tim McCarver open up at Jacobs Field. Red Sox and Indians. Let's see how Cleveland can handle Pedro Martinez, who's 4-0 against them lifetime and just about unhittable down the stretch. And back to ESPN for Mets and Diamondbacks. Game 2 tomorrow night. Not only is Martinez 23-4, but he has a closing kick this year reminiscent of Orel Hershiser in 1988. Going into the postseason, just about unhittable. Still 0-2.
The one thing I've noticed, Seeley is making a lot of quality pitches, Bob, but he's not able to put the hitters away. I mean, he only has 1 strikeout, and he has such a great curveball. You would think that he would be able to strike out more hitters than he's striking out in this ball game. He's got ahead of the hitters, but he's not able to put them away. He's ahead of Jeter 0-2, and he hasn't been able to just finish him off. And you let a hitter get a look at 4 or 5 extra pitches, and he...
Curveball swung on and missed. That's the 2nd strikeout, and both times Jeter was the victim.
And that's what I'm expressing. He should be able to change speeds on his curveball and get more strikeouts. Fastball on the outside corner for a strike. Another fastball on the corner for strike 2. Good curveball. Jeter spoils it. Fastball he fouls away, and here's that great curveball. That's the pitch that I say that he should have more strikeouts with, simply because there's such a sharp downward break on it, and he changes speeds on it so well. But he's only been able to strike Jeter out with it so far in this ball game.
Now O'Neill, who flied the deep center in the first. O'Neill is 36 years old. Since coming over from the Reds, he's been an important part of contending teams and world championship teams with the Yankees. But at age 36, he may not have many more seasons remaining as the Yankees starting right fielder. This is a team obviously with money to spend. And there's talk of Sean Green, the terrific young outfielder for the Blue Jays, who becomes a free agent after next season, and that the Yankees might be interested in him. The 1-0 pitch. 2 balls and no strikes.
This is the first year that O'Neill has not hit 300 since he came to the Yankees. But he still drove in 100 runs, so he's still a very productive outfielder. But I understand your point. He's probably seen his best years.
He closed with a rush. 31 RBIs for Joe Torre in the month of September. Block inching away from first, and Seeley's 2-0 pitch misses high. Bernie Williams awaiting his turn, and Tino Martinez would follow him.
But don't be surprised if Joe Torre doesn't let Paul O'Neill hit 3-0 here. Paul O'Neill is a master at working himself into a hitter's count, and he has done that here in the bottom of the 3rd inning.
We'll never know. The fastball is high and away. Walks him on 4 pitches. Second walk issued by Seeley. Johnny Oates said before this series began, we have a much better chance this year. They're still good, but nothing like a year ago. They won 16 fewer games. But still, they won 8 of 12 head-to-head against Oates' team this year, including a 21-3 humiliation of the Rangers in Arlington in August. A ball to Williams.
And they always have that experience factor. They know how to win and play in big games.
Plus, coming to Yankee Stadium, especially in the postseason, is no picnic for visitors. The atmosphere here can be more than raucous. It can be brutal. In there 1-1. Denny Hawking is now with the Twins, well-traveled veteran, was quoted as saying, you come to Yankee Stadium, you see a dozen 7-year-olds flipping you the bird. It makes you wonder about the youth of America. Those are the words of Denny Hawking, who can be reached in care of the Minnesota Twins rather than 30 Rockefeller Plaza, headquarters of NBC. Both Seeley and Hernandez are slow workers, especially with runners on. Here's the 1-1. Williams bounces it towards Stevens. Looks at second, takes the sure out at first. Second and third, 2 out. And Martinez headed for the plate.
And one of the things that happened there, Stevens wanted to go to second base, but Paul O'Neill ran in the same direction, stood up, did not go down and look like he was going to slide, and didn't give Stevens an angle to throw to second base.
Here's Dick Bosman, the pitching coach, visiting the mound.
Now watch this play. Stevens wants to go to second base. See, Paul O'Neill doesn't get a great start. But when he looks down there, all he can see is Paul O'Neill's back, so he decides I better take the sure out at first base. And here's O'Neill. He's right between Stevens and Royce Clayton.
So it's Tino Martinez as Bosman returns to the dugout. First base open, 2 out. Martinez grounded a single to right and is only at bat. With the exception of last year's World Series against San Diego, Martinez, who has been in the postseason every year since 1995, has never been a good playoff or World Series hitter. He had the big grand slam off Mark Langston in Game 1 of the Fall Classic in '98. But generally speaking, he has struggled in the playoffs. Here's the 0-1.
And a lot of people may be wondering, well, why wouldn't you walk Tino Martinez? Because he did get a base hit his first time up. Well, the reason you do not walk him is, first of all, you load the bases, then you give Aaron Seeley less margin for error when he's pitching to Darryl Strawberry. What you do here is try to make tough pitches to Martinez, and if he swings at him, okay. If he doesn't, and you end up walking him, you're still in pretty good shape.
Bounces the curveball up there. Nice play by Rodriguez. We mentioned earlier, here's a guy who catches nearly every day. 1 pass ball. 1.
But he also gives you the luxury, if you're a pitcher, to be able to throw your best pitch in this situation with a runner at third base. You know that he's going to block the pitch. A lot of times with catchers, that takes away their sharp breaking curveball or their slider in the dirt. That doesn't happen when you have a guy like Rodriguez behind the plate.
Yeah, it isn't just the pass balls charged, it's the wild pitches prevented.
Correct.
For example, that one certainly wouldn't have been a pass ball. The pitch a moment ago, he prevented a wild pitch. 2-2. 2 on, 2 out, and the 2-2 pitch. Rolled slowly towards short. Clayton fires to Stevens to retire Martinez, and the Yankees leave 2. After 3, Yankees still lead it 1-0. On the right is the president of the Sydney Olympic Organizing Committee, Michael Knight, seated with NBC's Dick Ebersol and explaining to him why baseball is fine but not nearly as fascinating as cricket. You ever been to a cricket match, Joe?
No, they can last for days, though. I know
days. And every moment of it more confusing than the first. But maybe that's the way the Aussies feel about baseball. Although a few Australians have made it to the major leagues, including the former Yankee Graham Lloyd. Now with Toronto as part of the deal that brought Roger Clemens here. A deal that worked out well for the Blue Jays. Homer Bush played well for them at second. David Wells had a good year. And Graham Lloyd was his usual self, effective against left-handers. A ball and a strike to Todd Zeile, starting the Texas 4th against Orlando Hernandez. The Yankees lead it 1-0. Todd Zeile probably just happy to spend a full season in one place, and a good place. The Rangers, the champions of the American League West. But he is among the majors' most well-traveled players, often it seems, being traded just before the deadline to some contending team.
Well, they always want his bat in their lineup. I mean, he's always been a pretty good hitter. As you mentioned, he started off as a catcher, and he didn't handle that position as well as they wanted, so he moved to another position.
A drive to left center field. Bernie Williams sprinting back, along with Leday at the fence, and Ricky Leday, some 400 feet from home plate, makes the catch.
That's one thing that Yankee Stadium affords you, is they give you a place to pitch to. If you can keep the ball towards the big part of the ballpark, you can get the hitters out. I mean, this is a long fly ball. In a lot of ballparks, this is gone. But it's 399 right there in left center field. And Ricky Leday is able to get back there and make the catch.
When I was a kid coming to games at Yankee Stadium on the subway, it was 457 to left center. Then after the first remodeling, it was 430. So while 399 is still a long poke into the gap, it's much friendlier to hitters than it once was. It was over 460 to the monuments which were on the field in straightaway center back in those days. A liner down the right field line that's in there for a base hit for Lee Stevens. My mistake, it landed foul. A foul ball and a near extra base hit for Lee Stevens.
Well, he hits this off the end of the bat, and it starts to hook right about now, and just out of the reach of the fans, and foul as Durwood Merle signals foul.
So a ball and a strike to Stevens, who grounded out his first time up. The last few hitters have hit the ball pretty hard against LDK.
Well, neither pitcher is establishing that he's in command out there on the mound. We've only had one 1-2-3 inning. That was El Duque in the top of the second inning. They're throwing a lot of pitches.
That one gets the corner, 2-2. Seeley trailing 1-0 because of a ball misplayed in left by Rusty Greer. Yankees got their run in the second. Down goes Stevens. Fourth strikeout for Hernandez. This Sunday at 4 Eastern, NBC continues its coverage of the inaugural Gravity Games. Things got controversial in the stand-up skateboard in last week's show, with most competitors crashing into the hay bales. I hate when that happens. What'll happen this week when the even quicker street lugers tackle a treacherous course? The Gravity Games, Sunday at 4 Eastern, only on NBC. You ever done any color commentary on Street Luge, Joe?
No, Bob.
A succinct answer. Clayton struck out in his only plate appearance. Hernandez throws the fastball by him upstairs. Andy Pettitte will start game 2 on Thursday night here. If there is a game 4 in Texas, they'll give the ball to David Cone. A weak wave at it, 1-2. If there is a 4th game, Johnny Oates plans to come back with Aaron Seeley, tonight's starter. Here's the rotation as we understand it right now. Helling and Pettitte in game 2 after a night off tomorrow. Clayton with a fly ball to center. Bernie Williams has it lined up. And Hernandez sets them down in order in the 4th. After 3.5, still 1-0 New York. Once again, the view from the Goodyear Blimp Stars and Stripes. Goodyear currently maintains 7 blimps, 3 domestic, 4 international operations. Empire State Building, World Trade Center, and the GE Building, our headquarters in Midtown Manhattan. Darryl Strawberry takes strike 1 as he leads it off in the Yankee 4th. They're still buzzing about the shot Strawberry hit on Friday night at Tropicana Field in Tampa off the catwalk in right center field. A ball that many observers say would have gone better than 500 feet had it been unobstructed.
Well, Joe Torre takes it 100 feet farther. He said it would have gone 600 feet. He said it was going to be farther than the ball Reggie Jackson hit in Detroit in the All-Star game.
And it brought comparisons to the roof shot that Strawberry hit in Montreal in '88, or the blast off the clock in the pennant race against the Cardinals at Busch Stadium off the Redbird left-hander Ken Daly in '85. He is still a feared presence at the plate. He lofts a little pop back as short, and Royce Clayton is there to take it.
And a good pitch there by Seeley. He had a 3-1 count, fastball count, and he threw him a slow curveball. And Strawberry was way out in front.
So Straw is now 0 for 2. And Seeley will work to Posada. The game is moving at a snail's pace. Each pitcher is deliberate. Each has worked deep into counts.
And they're throwing a lot of pitches, Bob, but they're also able to make one good pitch to stay out of deep trouble. But they're throwing a lot of pitches tonight. You see 67 for Hernandez and Seeley at 66.
And we're just in the 4th. Aaron Seeley was 18-9 for the year. Prior to the All-Star game, he was 8-6, and his ERA was 5.5. Since then, he's won 10 of 13 decisions, and his ERA is a 1.5 lower, right around 4. You can go 18-9 these days with an ERA of 4.79. The league ERA in the American League is nearly 5, 4.86. Here's the 1-2. Floats outside.
One of the great pitchers' performances of the year was Pedro Estacio in Colorado. He won 17 ball games and with a 5.06 earned run average, but that is great. I mean, pitching in a place like Colorado.
In that ballpark, yeah, for sure. Two-2 pitch, slow roller right side. Stevens can't handle it. McLemore picks it up and shovels to Seeley for the out.
Nice play by McLemore and Seeley. Seeley never stopped running, and McLemore backing up the play. Stevens got a real funny hop. He gets on the in-between hop. He probably should have just stayed back and waited for it. He do not have a fast runner in Posada. Now watch right here. Stay back, let it bounce one more time, but he gets the in-between hop, Here comes McLemore, and he makes a nice play.
The seldom seen 3-4-1.
Yeah, 3-4-1. He gets an assist off the heel of his glove. Now McLemore continues on, and so does Seeley. They never gave up on the play. Chuck Merriweather calling him out at first base.
And now Ricky Leday, who has the game's only RBI. A liner to left that Rusty Greer lost in the lights as it sailed over his head. Seeley's fastball is only in the high 80s, but he can throw it by you if you're looking for the breaking ball, which he has established tonight.
And his breaking ball is his best pitch. I mean, you have to be, when a guy has a great curveball as he has, you have to always be aware of it in the back of your mind. When the ball starts upstairs, you think it may break down, so you end up swinging at a lot of high fastballs out of the strike zone.
A call, strike 3. Third strikeout for Aaron Seeley. Fourth inning in the books, still 1-0 New York. As we head for the fifth, while there have been some balls hit sharply against El Duque, Ivan Rodriguez has the only 2 Texas base hits. The rest of the team is a combined 0 for 12. Tom Goodwin in the 9th slot to start it in the 5th. Called strike on the breaking ball. The Rangers have a center field prospect named Ruben Mateo, who sat out part of this year with a broken wrist. But he is said to be a legitimate 5-tool player and may be ticketed to be their starting center fielder next season. Goodwin's the incumbent for now, 0-2. Johnny Oates recently had his contract extended, as did Doug Novin, the general manager of the club. Why not? The results have been there. Despite the losses to the Yankees in the postseason, this is the 3rd time in 4 years they've made the playoffs.
And the other 2 times they played the Yankees, and they lost to the Yankees, but the Yankees went on to be world champions. So you can't say that they did not have a successful season. They just could not beat the world champions.
Punch to short. Jeter to Martinez for the out. So now back to the top of the order for Mark McLemore, who's 0 for 2. The veteran second baseman has been bothered by bad knees the last couple of years, but he's feeling friskier now. He actually is in better shape physically than he was in '97 or '98. And he filled that spot for them at the top of the order when Goodwin's on-base percentage plummeted and they had to move him down to the bottom.
One of the things that makes El Duque tough is he throws from so many different angles, whether you're right-handed or left-handed. He started Goodwin off with an overhand curveball. Now he drops down and throws a sidearm fastball to McLemore, leading off this at-bat.
Hernandez is now retired 6 in a row. Out of that scissor kick windup, his 1-1 pitch misses.
And this ball game begs for someone to take control, because both of these pitchers are, as I said, thrown lots of pitches. They struggle, but they have been able to come up with the big pitch when they've needed it. But you have to show some control out there. Show that you're in command. That'll give your team a boost. And El Duque's trying to do that. As you mentioned, he's had 4 straight hitters he's retired. Well, more than that. 6.
McLemore asks for time.
And Bob, both teams have had runners in scoring position, just have not been able to pick them up. Texas is 0 for 4, and New York is 0 for 3.
In the air to right. Paul O'Neill over toward the line to take it for the second out. Now Friday night, NBC comes back with Game 3 of the National League Division Series between the Diamondbacks and the Mets, which opens tonight in Arizona. So we don't have to get on a plane. Just camp in New York for the rest of the week and slide over to Shea on Friday.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, what do you mean we?
Yeah, right.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're doing double duty.
Yeah, I'll be in Atlanta tomorrow.
Oh, but it's that time of the year. You love it, right?
I love it. You're right. I do.
If they could just beam you up from park to park, though, that would be
even better. Yes.
Rodriguez 2 for 2. And smashes one to left, but Leday, almost in his tracks, takes it. So 8 in a row retired now by Hernandez. Midway through, 1-0 New York. Billy Crystal, lifelong Yankee fan, seated alongside Larry David, co-creator with Jerry Seinfeld of The Seinfeld Show, and Spike Lee, a rabid New York sports fan, as expected, in attendance. Brocious, Knobloch, Jeter in the 5th. Do you see the note? The other day, Billy Crystal, bidding on one of the items in Barry Halper's auction of that incredible collection of baseball memorabilia of his, spent $249,000 for one of Mickey Mantle's gloves.
I saw it.
I asked him if I gave him 10 grand, would he let me catch a fungo with it? Man, $249. I think my first glove actually cost $2.49 at Woolworth's. Not more than that, not much more, I'll tell you. Get a baseball glove when I was a kid, for a good glove, for 15 bucks.
Yeah, 10 to 15.
Of course, Mantle hadn't used it. Zeal, who committed 25 errors this year, makes the play and throws Brocious out. The left side of the Ranger infield has been rather porous. Both Clayton and Zeal charged with 25 errors this year.
And we talked about how good the New York Mets infield is. Alfonso and Ordonez made 9 errors between them.
Well, here's Knobloch, a Gold Glove winner with the Twins in '97, who led Major League second baseman in errors this year with 26. As a former second baseman, how do you explain his decline?
Well, he won a Gold Glove the year before he came to New York. And I don't understand it. I've never seen him have problems throwing until the last couple of years.
On bang-bang plays, he has little trouble. But when he has time to think about it on a routine ground ball, he's liable to throw it away. It's weird. Not exactly the same as what happened to Steve Sachs years back with the Dodgers, but similar.
Well, what was that Yogi Berra said? 90% of this game is mental, and the other 15% is physical. So I would say that it's more obviously a mental problem than anything else. When you have time to think about it, you think about the problems that you have, and you think that, well, I can throw this away.
Check swing foul, 2-2.
On a bang-bang play, on a double play, you just have to get it and get rid of it.
That wound up in the Yankee dugout and got a piece of somebody. And obviously we can't tell who just yet. We're told that it's Don Zimmer, the 68-year-old Yankee bench coach and Tory confidant, who is not as spry as he once was and couldn't get out of the way of that ball as it sliced into the dugout. It is definitely Zimmer.
Bob, I'm amazed that this doesn't happen more often, where you have stadiums where there's not a fence in front of the dugout. Because a lot of times, I mean, you do not, I don't care if you're 10 years old or 20 or whatever, you do not have time to get out of the way of a ball because you can only pick it up the last few feet. And you see the concern that Chuck Knobloch has on his face.
As baseball fans know, as a player, Don Zimmer suffered a couple of serious beatings. The expression on Joe Torre's face speaks volumes. This is one of his closest friends. Obviously, our view is obscured as yours is, and we're not going to speculate about what might have happened, except we can confirm that the ball hit Don Zimmer. Zimmer has spoken about the possibility of retiring because his knees are aching him so badly that he's in constant pain. Holding an ice bag, it appears, to the side of his head.
And he is conscious. That's a good sign.
In the area behind his left ear. One of the most beloved figures in all of baseball, Don Zimmer.
And you don't last that long if people do not like you. Just remember that. 51 years.
1949 was his first year of professional ball. There's a man who's dealt with his share of adversity. Death of his older brother Rocco, serious illness of his brother Frank, his own battle with prostate cancer.
But he said it makes him really appreciate life a lot better now that he's gone through all these things, and he realized that baseball is what it is, a game. It's not a life and death situation.
Now Seeley back to work and missing inside the knoblock, full count. Jim Gray will get on top of the situation for us. Torrey with Stottlemyre. We'll get a report on Zimmer's condition as soon as we possibly can. Now the payoff. Bounce to the left side. It comes up nicely for Clayton, who throws Knobloch out. 2 down on the New York 5th. And that'll bring up Jeter.
Knobloch seemed to be very upset as he was going back.
Upset not so much about making an out, but about what that check swing liner off his bat may have done to Don Zimmer. First one to Jeter, rolled foul. He has struck out in his only 2 at-bats against Seeley tonight.
And the great thing about Derek Jeter, Bob, is he has improved each and every year. And that's what you like to see in a player. You're never satisfied with a great season that he had the year before. And he is the consummate team player. I mean, he only thinks about the team. He says he doesn't care about MVPs. He doesn't care about batting championships. All he cares about is the rings that he helps win with his ball club.
He's got 2 of them already. So let me put you on the spot. Jeter, Garcia-Parra, Alex Rodriguez, your choice.
Just flip a coin. I think it's very difficult. Depends on the team you're on. Depends on where you're playing. Alex Rodriguez, of course, has more power. Garcia-Parra, perfect in Boston. Derek Jeter, perfect here. So, I mean, just a matter of where you're playing.
The UN isn't far from here. You have a job waiting for you as a diplomat.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you can choose between them. It's very difficult. Of course, Alex Rodriguez has more power than either one.
You're talking about 3 guys almost certain, even though it's early in their careers, this is a safe prediction, barring injury or mishap, almost certain to make the Hall of Fame.
I think that's the key, barring injuries. And Garcia-Parra has had a few injuries back and getting hit. He's sitting out now. He's going to start tomorrow. He hasn't played for a few days. Alex Rodriguez this year had a knee injury. Derek has been pretty healthy this year.
Seeley's 1-2 pitch to him. Fastball high and away.
And I think the other problem with trying to choose, Bob, is I don't think any of them have reached their peak. They all seem to be getting better each year.
What a thought for American League pitchers. Hit toward the middle, and McLemore can't get to it. Jeter with a 2-out single.
And that's the reason he was able to hit 349 this year, Bob. He was behind in the count, and he hit so many balls to right field that McLemore has to shade him that way. But he fights it off until he gets a good pitch to hit. He fought off some tough pitchers' pitches. Now he gets a fastball pretty much in the middle of the plate, and he grounds it right back through the middle. And because it goes the other way, McLemore had him shaded toward right field. No chance to make a play. And when you're a guy that can fight off good pitches and then hammer the ones that they give you, that's why you can hit 349 and drive in 100 runs from the second spot position.
That was New York's 4th hit. The Rangers have but 2. Both of them from Ivan Rodriguez. A strike to O'Neill, who's fly to center and walked. We're only in the 5th, and this game is creeping up on 2 hours long already. And I underline creeping.
Far different ball game than what I saw last night in Cincinnati with the Mets and the Reds. But everything starts on the mound, and last night Al Leiter was in complete control, and neither of these 2 pitchers tonight have been in complete control. They have been able to make quality pitches when they've needed to with runners in scoring position.
Seeley's 0-1 pitch to O'Neill. Tapped foul at the plate.
You see, Ivan Rodriguez took his bare hand, tried to flip it in front of the plate, hoping that Jim Joyce wouldn't see that. Watch this. This is interesting. The ball. Now watch the ball in fair territory. He tries to bump it out there. Watch his right hand. Look at that. He just bumps it out there. Tries to trick him, but Jim Joyce says no way.
A wily move.
Yeah. If he picks it up, you know it's foul, but he bounces it out in front as if it's a fair baseball. Not only does he have quick feet, he's got quick hands.
And a quick thinker. The 0-2. Misses away. You told me last year, after that controversial play at first base where Travis Fryman of the Indians had the ball strike him and Knobloch thought it was interference, that Johnny Bench was so quick and so accurate that he used to purposely throw a ball into the back of a guy who had bunted or squibbed one in front of the plate in order to get interference called and return a runner from first who was on his way to second back to first base.
He did it quite often on bunt plays. That's when he did it mostly, to move the runner back to first base.
A chopper that is into right field. Jeter on his way to third. They'll have no play on him. Runners at the corners with 2 out.
And we've talked about Seeley and Hernandez being able to make quality pitches when they're in trouble. This is not one of his better pitches. You have first base open. You do not want to give Paul O'Neill anything he can pull into that hole over there. You have a guy being held at first, and there's a breaking ball inside, and you'll see Stevens has no chance because he's holding Jeter on at first, and McLemore's shading him up the middle. Big hole on the right side. You try to keep the ball away, as he did the first 2 pitches.
Seeley, who has thrown only 2 complete games in 33 starts, moving toward 100 pitches in the 5th. Fouled off by Williams, who has stranded 3 hitters in his 3 runners rather, in his 2 at-bats so far tonight.
And in this inning is the first inning in the entire ball game where he's been hanging the curveball. He's been able to keep the curveball down, but we see no one throwing in the Texas bullpen. He's been able to keep the curveball down most of the night, and as well as his fastball. But 2 pitches here, one to O'Neill and one here to Bernie Williams, have been up in the strike zone.
The whole idea for Texas all season long, with Jeter at third and O'Neill at first, has been to get through the 6th with a lead or at least staying close. They have a deep bullpen, and then they try to get to Wetland to finish it. That one's in there, 0-2.
Well, there's the pitch that he's made a lot of hay on tonight. I mean, he's made some quality pitches with this backdoor curveball. And again, most of the left-handed hitters are going to give up on it. See, it starts way outside, then it breaks right over the outside corner.
And the 0-2. Blocked by Rodriguez. A ball and 2 strikes.
And I guarantee in the scouting report, they say if you get ahead of Bernie Williams, try to throw a breaking ball in the dirt, and he will chase it every once in a while. And that's what that was supposed to be. But again, you have to have confidence in your catcher with a runner at third to bounce the curveball as he did there.
And the 1-2. Rodriguez thought they had Williams struck out.
So did Seeley.
Jim Joyce's opinion is the one that counts, and he didn't agree.
Well, you can watch Seeley's reaction. He starts this ball off the plate, and he thinks it breaks over the outside corner, and Seeley starts off. And a pretty close pitch.
Two-out singles by Jeter and O'Neill put runners at first and third. Yankees trying to add to a 1-0 lead in the 5th. And Seeley's 2-2 pitch. Full count.
Well, he's thrown him a lot of breaking balls, so quite naturally you say, well, I should be able to sneak the fastball by him. But he tried that earlier in the ball game, and Bernie Williams was right on the fastball.
Stevens plays behind O'Neill at first. He runs on the pitch, which is tapped foul.
And I think that was a wise pitch. Come back with the curveball again and hope you can make a quality pitch with it. And this is a good pitch because it's really not a strike. You can see it breaking out of the strike zone, but with 2 strikes, Williams had to protect the plate. Pitch was going to break low.
Another 3-2 pitch. A drive to center. Goodwin started in, now goes back, and won't get to it. Off the base of the wall. Jeter scores. O'Neill scores. Williams pulls up at second with a double on the Yankee lead. Jumps to 3-0.
Well, he decided to try to sneak the fastball by him, and he couldn't do it. He had thrown him a couple of quality curveballs. Williams spoiled him, but here he tries to throw a fastball by him, and Williams hammers it to center field. This is what happened in the first inning, although he didn't hit it out. He waited on the fastball and drilled it to center field over the head of Goodwin, and by the time they get it back in, well, he's excited.
The 2-bagger. The Jeter reaction as he scores the first of the 2 that come home on the head, which brings a chant of Bernie, Bernie from the Yankee Stadium crowd and brings Dick Bosman back to the mound. Venefro is the lefty, Crabtree the righty.
I don't know if there is such a thing as a bad choice of pitches. Curveball, fastball. He was throwing a lot of curveballs to him, so you always figured you sneak a fastball by him, but he got the fastball up and out over the plate.
First one to Martinez. Off speed and ball 1. Tino is singled and grounded to short. This will be Seeley's 103rd pitch. (2-0).
Bob, last year so much was made of the fact that the Yankees didn't have an MVP. that they had 25 MVPs. Well, this year, 2 guys have stepped up. That's Derek Jeter and Bernie Williams, and they're the ones that have led the charge here in the 5th inning. They are definitely the 2 guys that have stepped up to become MVP candidates for this ball club.
After falling behind on the count 2-0, they're not going to take any further chances with Martinez. They'll walk him intentionally. This is still a supremely balanced team. In a year where 45 major leaguers top 30 home runs, Martinez led the Yankees with the same figure that led them in home runs a year ago, 28. They won 114 games last year without anybody hitting as many as 30 home runs, and won 98 this year, same story.
But they have definitely had 2 guys to step up and lead them this year.
Strawberry is hit into a force play and popped to short. Zimmer back on the bench.
That's good to see.
And the ever-present smile returns. The pitch to Straw. Gets away from Rodriguez. And the runners move up to second and third. Probably a wild pitch.
Yes, but I'm not so sure he wasn't crossed up on that pitch. Because Rodriguez, he doesn't go to block it. See? I think he was crossed up. I think he was expecting something else. Because usually he gets down on that ball, even if he doesn't catch it, he's able to block it. But I believe he was expecting another type of pitch and didn't get it. And now they're going to walk Darryl Strawberry.
So a second successive intentional pass as we go to Jim Gray.
All right, thank you, Bob. Well, Don Zimmer had a major laceration under his ear and in his jaw. They were able to patch him up. They took him back into the clubhouse, and Steve Donahue tells us that he was fine. He asked him, could he sit up? He said, yeah, I can sit up, but I certainly don't want to dance. They asked him if he wanted to return to the bench. He said, give me a few minutes, and as you saw just a few moments ago, he came back out. Bob?
Thank you, Jim. That is Steve Donahue, the trainer seated between Zim and Luis Sojo, the backup infielder. How about that? Yeah, I can sit up, but I don't want to dance. An irrepressible character, Don Zimmer. Well, if Seeley doesn't retire Posada, the flickering chances of the Rangers will be just about snuffed out. The Yankees are a base hit away from breaking this open. Ball 1. Down and in, 2-0. All of this with 2 out. Single by Jeter, single by O'Neill, double from Williams. Intentional walks to Martinez and Strawberry with a wild pitch in between. A liner to left. Rusty Greer has it. The Yankees score 2 and leave 3, and after 5, they lead Texas 3-0. Over the last 32 innings of playoff baseball against the Yankees, the Texas Rangers have managed 1 run, shut out twice in the 3 games last year in the division series, and they lost the middle game 3-1 and down 3-0 as we enter the 6th in the opener of this series. He doesn't look like a man who's enjoying himself, does he?
Well, they've had some opportunities tonight to score runs. They just have not been able to get the big hit in clutch situations. And now it seems that Hernandez has settled down. He's retired the last 8 hitters in a row.
Hernandez's history is that he gets stronger as the game moves along. Opponent's batting average against him actually is lower from his 75th pitch on than it is at the beginning of the game. And he's right around 80 pitches now as he works in the 6th. The complete game is, of course, on baseball's endangered species list. Each of these staffs had but 6 for the whole year. But relatively speaking, Hernandez is a workhorse. He'll get you through the 7th. He pitched more than 200 innings this year. A high pop out around second. Jeter wants it, and that takes care of Rusty Greer. Division Series action continues tomorrow. 2 games on ESPN with a game on Fox in the middle. Astros beat the Braves today 6-1. They beat Greg Maddux in the process. Mets and Diamondbacks played their game 1. And less than an hour from now, out at the Bob in Arizona. The Bank One ballpark. They call it the Bob out there.
Have you ever been to Arizona?
To the state of Arizona or to that ballpark?
Well, I was thinking if you've been to the state, maybe they named it after you.
Well, I am a reasonably well-traveled man, but I can't accept the honor. Bank One ballpark. B.O.B. 1-1 to Gonzalez. Sliced foul. Each time he's come to the plate in this game against Hernandez, there were 2 men on. He struck out swinging in the first. Then he was robbed of a hit and of at least 1 RBI on a sliding catch in right center by Bernie Williams in the 3rd. 2-time MVP, 96 and 98, with numbers this year that sound like an MVP: 326, 39, and 128. But it's a crowded field in 99.
With those numbers, he doesn't even get a top 5 mention.
Probably not.
That's amazing. I mean, to have those types of numbers and have so many guys kind of ranked ahead of you. Look at those numbers: 326, 128, 39, 603 slugging percentage.
All of those figures would likely have led the league, with the possible exception of the 326, which would have been close a decade ago. But offense has exploded all around baseball. 2-2. Now here's one measure of that, taken from the other side. El Duque's ERA is 4.12. That's actually in the top 10 in the American League. It's 10th in the league. Check the swing. They check it first. Chuck Merriweather says he didn't go around. Full count. Now that puts what Pedro Martinez did in perspective. His ERA was nearly 2, and the league ERA is almost 5.
Nice check swing there. He was in complete control of the bat.
And the 3-2 pitch. From the sidearm angle, he misses. And Gonzalez draws a walk.
I'm not sure Gonzalez took that pitch because he thought it was a ball. I don't think he could hit it. That was a nasty pitch.
And it snaps a string of 9 consecutive Texas hitters retired.
Well, he drops down, and you can see Gonzalez is already gone. But it is clearly off the plate. You know, the year that Pedro Martinez had, Bob, I mean, could arguably be one of the best year ever, considering all the other facets where guys are driving in runs, scoring runs, and, you know, and being more difficult to pitch in today's situations.
And he's pitching at Fenway Park in a DH league.
Yeah. I mean, I think it rivals Bob Gibson's 1.12 earned run average when he had all the complete games and the shutouts. But it's a lot more difficult, I think, to pitch today and have those types of numbers.
And to strike out over 300 and walk just 37? That's ridiculous. 2-0 to Palmeiro, who has walked and flied to deep center.
One thing with the Texas Rangers, are always one swing from being back in the ball game.
A liner speared by Martinez, a brilliant play, and he turns it into a double play. That ball was blistered by Palmeiro, but Martinez turns it into 2 outs and ends the inning.
He said they were always one swing away from being back in the ballgame. This was ticketed for right field corner, a double. Great catch there by Tino Martinez, and it's an easy double play. I mean, watch, he's up in front of the bag. Look how close he is to the hitter. He has to react very quickly. Leaps up, makes the catch. Now watch this reaction from both Orlando Hernandez and first Rafael. Rafael drops down, and Hernandez is saying, yes, we got him.
So the Rangers, in need of a break, can't catch one. And Leday, who's double, produced the game's first run, fouls it back. Bottom of the 6th, 3-6-0 New York, 0-2-0 Texas. New York trying to beat the Rangers for the 7th consecutive time in postseason play, and for the 30th time in their last 41 meetings. Leday, Brocious, and Knobloch in the 6th. Which could be Seeley's last inning, even if he breezes through it.
Well, especially if you're Johnny Oates thinking about bringing him back in game 4 if it gets that far.
The 1-1. 9 away, 2 balls and a strike. And that is Oates' intention. Then he'd have to decide, if there is a game 5, whether to use John Burkett, who hasn't pitched all that well of late, or to come back with his game 2 starter, Rick Helling.
And Seeley has already thrown 116 pitches, Bob.
And on 3-1, he walks Leday. They may not have the luxury of getting him through this inning. And this time it's Oates rather than Bosman, so you knew a change was in order. Exit Seeley, enter Crabtree, and we step aside for just a moment. 3-0 Yankees, bottom of the 6th. The line on Aaron Seeley. He departs on the short end of a 3-0 score. And of course, he's responsible for Leday, who's at first base, with nobody out on the bottom of the 6th as Tim Crabtree takes over. Crabtree, 6'4", 220, was 5-1 this year. Used in middle relief. His ERA was 3.46. His record is 11-2 over the last 2 seasons. He features that hard sinker. He's thrown 4 scoreless innings against the Yankees in postseason play. 2 appearances last year in the division series. Brocious is 0 for 2. Squares to bunt and sends it foul up the first base line.
This is one of the reasons the Yankees won so many ball games last year. When they get you down, they try to add on. They don't go for the jugular, so to speak, but they're just trying to get one more run here at home and go into the 7th inning with a 4-run or more lead. I think that's a great play there by Joe Torre to try to just get one more run.
Willie Randolph, the coach you saw at third, flashing signs to Brocious. Jose Cardinal on the lines at first for the Yankees. Jim Gray told us before the game that Crabtree was one of the Rangers bitten by the flu bug. Looking to bunt again, pulls back and takes a strike, and now he's in an 0-2 hole. As a fellow second baseman, you can appreciate the career that guy had. Now the Yankee third base coach, Willie Randolph. A winning player, a classy player.
And a very intelligent player. I think one of these days he's going to be a manager in the major leagues. Soon.
Crabtree's 0-2 pitch, and Brocious fouls it back. Brocious had 4 postseason home runs in '98.
Bob, Brocious is the kind of guy, if he can work you into a hitter's count where it's 0-1, you know, 1 ball, no strikes, 2-1, and you give him the fastball, he does not miss it. But if you can stay ahead of the count, you can handle him pretty easily.
Looking to bunt on the 0-2 pitch, and he gets it down. Stevens fields it. McLemore covers. And a 2-strike sacrifice bunt executed by Brocious.
And I tell you what, that was a very good heads-up defensive play by the Texas Rangers. You do not expect a guy who had drove in 98 runs last year to bunt with 2 strikes. He squares around, drops it down. Great bunt there. And you can see Crabtree was not going to be able to get over there. But a good play there by McLemore and Stevens. See, everyone is caught a little bit off guard, but they react very quickly, and Stevens is able to get the ball to McLemore in time to retire Brocious. Good heads-up play defensively by the Rangers.
Which brings up Knobloch, who's 1 for 2 with a walk. Ball 1.
Now that's very unusual to see a hitter. You see that a lot of times with a pitcher or maybe an 8th place hitter in the National League, but not a guy like Brocious who can hit the ball out of the ballpark, bunting with 2 strikes.
Yankees signed him to a multi-year deal during the winter and traded the highly regarded third base prospect Mike Lowell to the Marlins. Got the inside edge, 1-1.
Well, maybe he missed the sign. Because they're all talking about it.
Has to be, because he can't be upset with what he did. He did it perfectly.
No one's upset. I think maybe he missed the sign.
And it turned out all right.
He thought the bunt was still on.
Fouled off, 1-2. That's Chris Chambliss, who won a pennant for the Yankees with a Game 5 homer back when the LCS was just a best-of-5 against the Royals in '76. And they're set off a wild scene in this ballpark.
And they're having a good laugh, Bob, because I think they said, well, we didn't put it on, but we're glad you did the job.
A day away from second, Crabtree checks him and brings the 1-2 home. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Knobloch. We have an excellent chance without extra innings for this game to reach midnight. Oates and Bosman, El Duque and Posada. Posada catches every game El Duque pitches. Taking care of the language barrier. Knobloch goes down on strikes. And check out an all-new ER.
NBC Thursday on ER.
ER, part of Must See TV Thursday. So now it's up to Jeter with 2 out. Struck out twice, then singled and scored. Ball 1 from Crabtree. I can't help it, Joe. I see someone named Crabtree. All I can think of is the Little Rascals teacher. Remember Spanky and Stymie? They all loved her. Oh, Miss Crabtree. So much for that bizarre stream of consciousness. 2-0. Strike, 2-1.
Yeah, Jeter asked Jim Joyce, wasn't the pitch outside? And Jim Joyce shakes his head, no, it was over the outside corner.
And the 2-1. Fouled off. Venefro, the lefty, was throwing. Now he's standing and watching, but they've got him at the ready if Crabtree doesn't retire Jeter and the left-handed hitter O'Neill comes up. And finally the 2-2 pitch. Full count. Many adjectives could be used to describe this game. Brisk is not among them. And the 3-2 pitch. We'll do it again. Joe Torre told us before the game that there was more pressure on him and on the Yankees entering the '98 postseason because they had done so well. They were on the verge of something historic, and it all would have been forgotten or disparaged in some way if they hadn't finished it off by going all the way and winning the World Series. And in fact, they blitzed through the postseason 11-2. This year, they feel they still have an excellent chance to be world champions again, but they don't feel as if it's as expected of them.
Well, they don't have the same amount of pressure.
Another 3-2 pitch from Crabtree to Jeter. Walked him.
There's always pressure to win a pennant or to win a world championship, but it's just not as much pressure put on this team now as there was last year at the same time.
Crabtree leaves. Venefro, the lefty, comes on to face O'Neill. We're still in the 6th. Another of our overhead shots from the Goodyear Blimp Stars and Stripes, courtesy of the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Rookie left-hander Michael Venefro has come on. He pitched very well in September for Johnny Oates and Dick Bosman. In 10 September innings, his ERA was 1.80. But the Yankees have treated him rudely in 4 appearances. They've scored 6 runs off him in 6 2/3. That's an ERA upwards of 8 against New York. Short stint for Crabtree. Seeley hoping his fate is not sealed tonight and that the Rangers can rally. O'Neill with 2 on and 2 out.
The Rangers can stay close. They're always in the ballgame. They can put numbers on the board.
Roll foul, just foul. That would have scored at least 1 and maybe more.
Paul O'Neill gets a fastball up and out over the plate. He's late on it, but just barely.
Very unusual delivery for a left-hander from Venefro. Sidearm almost submarine. His 0-1 pitch to O'Neill. Fouled off. Ball is fly to deep center, walked and singled. O'Neill hit .285 overall, but only .190 against lefties this year.
And that's very unusual. He had been able to handle left-handers well the last few years. And that's the reason he didn't hit .300 here for the first time since he's been a Yankee.
He lays off, and it's 1-2.
That's a good pitch, 0-2 pitch there by Venefro. You try to get him to chase something off the plate. If he doesn't go, it doesn't matter. Now it's 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Venefro, a relatively little guy by today's standards for pitchers, 5'10", 180. Hardly ever see a pitcher under 6 feet tall these days. 0-2 pitch. Slash toward third, and Seal can't handle it. 1 run scores. It's 4-0 New York. Diving into third is Jeter. Leday comes across with the run that makes it a 4-run New York advantage. Seal made 25 errors this year, and that one ate him up.
Well, this breaking ball is in the middle of the plate. Now watch, he tries to get his body in front of it instead of backhanding it, and he gets away from it. That's a very tough play because the ball's on him right away. I think he had a better chance of backhanding this ball. See how he tries to get his glove over in front of it. You have a better chance of backhanding that ball, maybe knocking it down. It was a very difficult play because the ball was hit very sharply down to third base.
E5, and it's 4-0 New York.
That's a tough error right there.
Now Bernie Williams, whose long double back in the 5th, scored 2. Switch hitter turning around to bat right-handed. Jeter at third. O'Neill at first. And the 1-0 pitch misses. So here are the Rangers trying to get over that psychological hurdle. Losers of 6 straight playoff games to the Yankees. 29 of the last 40. And in the last 33 innings of postseason play, Johnny Oates' team has scored exactly 1 run and now trailing 4-0 in the opener. And only a few innings away from looking at Mariano Rivera if Torrey needs him. Called strike, 2-1.
As long as they do not lose their confidence, Texas is always in the ball game. I mean, they are definitely capable of putting up 4 or more runs in the next 2 innings.
Williams waits on the 2-1 pitch, and here it comes. In the air to right. This ball is on its way. This ball is gone. Of scoring 7 runs at any time.
Well, it's just more evidence of the fact that this year Bernie Williams and Derek Jeter have really stepped up big time for the Yankees. Fastball away, and Bernie has always been strong enough to hit the ball out right-handed. He was always a stronger hitter from the right side than ever before, but because he doesn't get a chance to hit from the right side nearly as much now, he's become a much better hitter from the left side.
Curtain call for Williams, who was 0 for 11 against Texas in last year's playoffs. Yankees swept anyway. But tonight, he begins the series with 5 RBIs. 2-run double, 3-run homer.
Last year, Derek Jeter was 1 for 9 against Texas. And he has been on base a couple of times with a base hit and a base on balls.
A called strike to Martinez. Even for a right-handed hitter, in this case a switch hitter from the right side, Williams, that porch in right can still be inviting.
Well, he has never been a pull hitter from the right side anyway, so he can take advantage of that short right field fence.
This one's popped up on the infield. Stevens puts an end to the New York 6th, but far too late from the Rangers' perspective. The Yankees score 4 and lead it 7-0, headed for the 7th. You can't give them extra opportunities. 4 unearned runs on 1 hit in the inning, just the Williams home run.
And on top of that, you're not putting any pressure on them by making them have to come from behind ever in a ball game. Texas has never been ahead of the Yankees in the last 6 games that they have played, and that really hurts. I mean, we don't know if the Yankees can come behind. At least Texas doesn't know it. They have not been able to put in any pressure on the Yankees. The Yankees have had everything going their way in the last 2 series.
It's almost astonishing that a team as power-laden as the Rangers has been so thoroughly throttled by the Yankees in 7 consecutive postseason games, especially the last 4 in '98 and '99.
And Bob, if you take a look at tonight's action, Ivan Rodriguez is 2 for 3. The rest of the ball club is 0 for 16. Look at those numbers, 0 for 16.
So now El Duque staked to a 7-0 lead.
And he was actually starting to throw the ball better anyway.
Zeal pops one into shallow right. Knobloch back, O'Neill in. It should be O'Neill's ball, and it is. El Duque would be the Yankees' Game 5 starter if there is a 5th game. Does that figure into how quickly Torrey ends his evening tonight?
I think the only way it figures in, Bob, is if he continues to throw well here in the 7th inning. You may decide, well, he's throwing well, he's found his rhythm. Now it's okay to take him out of the ball game. And I think he has found his rhythm. I mean, he's been pitching well since the 3rd inning. There's Mel Stottlemyre. He has the counter in his hand, so he knows that he's thrown 95 pitches.
Quickly ahead of Stevens, 0-2.
And you can see a little different approach by Hernandez. He's throwing fastball, trying to get ahead, and he is getting ahead. When you have a 7-run lead, it takes 7 solo homers to tie you. So you want to make sure that that's the way they earn them. They have to hit the ball out of the ballpark. You're not going to walk anybody.
You look in El Duque's eyes. This is a competitor.
And he can see the goal line right now.
No question.
Change up.
The way baseball is played these days, even with a performance like this, he's probably not going to finish it. Even with the shutout going, there's a chance that he'll come out and they'll let the bullpen complete it.
Well,
not Rivera tonight, but somebody else.
I believe there are a lot of things you think about at this stage if you're Joe Torre. Because this is a new season, so to speak, the playoffs. You want to try to give guys a chance to get in there, you know, get their feet wet, so that if you do have to call on them later in the series, they're prepared. It's not the first appearance they're making.
Stevens spoils the 3-2 pitch.
There's one other aspect of tonight's ballgame, Bob, that I look at. A guy like El Duque, who gives you a lot of motion, he can actually throw your timing off where it affects you for a couple of days, not just one day. It's like a knuckleball pitcher. You know, knuckleball pitchers can put a whole team in a slump. And a guy like El Duque throwing elbows, arms, and everything else can get you off balance. Because I'm watching here and I'm seeing some pretty good pitches to hit, and they're not able to put them in play.
He is a high socks wearing, high kicking, freewheeling. If you're just joining us, Don Zimmer was hit by a foul ball off the bat of the Yankees' Chuck Knobloch a few innings ago. Hit him behind the left ear, and that's why he has the ice bag to the side of his head. Talk about a gamer. Even at age 68, Zim is a gamer. Royce Clayton's 0 for 2. Drops the breaking ball in there. Clayton had given up on it. Well, after tonight, the Hernandez brothers stand to be a combined 7-0 in postseason play over the last 2+ seasons. 4-0 for Levon, and El Duque on his way to his 3rd win without a postseason defeat. Punched into center. Bernie Williams scarcely has to move. And a reminder, coming off their victory against Oklahoma a week ago, the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame return to NBC this Saturday at 2:30 Eastern to face the Sun Devils of Arizona State. They defeated those Sun Devils a year ago. Arizona State versus Notre Dame, Saturday at 2:30 Eastern on NBC. So here's Goodwin. Rodriguez is still the only Ranger to hit safely tonight. He had a double in the first and a broken bat single in the third. Hernandez has walked 5, but he's yielded only 2 hits in 6 2/3. His 0-1 to Goodwin is low.
And there have been only a couple of other balls hit hard. Great play at first base by Tino Martinez robbed Rafael Palmeiro, and a nice sliding catch in right center field by Bernie Williams robbed Juan Gonzalez of a base hit. Everything else has been pretty much routine.
2-1. Goodwin hit .259 for the year. Jeff Nelson up in the pen.
And now that he's starting to struggle a little bit here with his control, this could possibly be his last inning.
Shakes off a couple. Now he has the sign he wants from Posada. Curveball just outside. 3-1.
Well, Joe Torre and Mel Stottlemyre talking it over.
Well, if he can conclude the 7th in the next few pitches, they will not have overworked it. A fly ball to left. Leday closes out the Texas 7th. Stretch time at Yankee Stadium. 7-0 New York.
Coverage of tonight's Division Series is brought to you by...
While we were away in the dugout, you see Mel Stottlemyre talking to El Duque, but he calls Posada over to translate because he didn't understand what El Duque was saying. He had to do the same thing with home plate umpire Jim Joyce. He took Posada up and he was talking to Jim Joyce, and Joyce didn't understand, so finally Posada had to interpret there as well. And you can see Stottlemyre is telling him exactly what he wants him to do.
Well, Venafro went out to the mound to start the inning, but with the DH slot due, Joe Torre sent Jim Leyritz, a right-handed hitter, up to bat for Strawberry, and as soon as Leyritz was announced, Johnny Oates goes back to his bullpen for a right-handed pitcher. The Yankees cleanup man truly has cleaned up tonight. Huge night for Bernie Williams. 2-run double, 3-run homer. 7-0 New York. Danny Patterson, 28-year-old right-hander, in his 4th major league season, all with the Rangers, out of the bullpen. Leyritz batting for Strawberry. Leyritz, as you may know, has been a spectacular postseason performer. In 58 playoff and World Series at-bats, he has 7 home runs, almost all of them clutch. Waves at that one, and he's in an 0-2 hole. Despite the 5.67 ERA, Patterson 2-0 this year. Won 10 games for them out of the bullpen in 1997. Chili Davis and Darryl Strawberry can enjoy a laugh on the long end of a 7-0 score.
Charles Chili Davis on the right.
350 career home runs and better than 1,300 career RBIs. Kind of snuck up on people, speaking of Chili. The bat is shattered. Slow roll to short. Clayton on the move gets Leyritz. Back to Chili Davis. There's some talk about him possibly retiring after this year. He says he won't play for anyone but the Yankees. They've got an option on his contract for next year, but at $4 million. And even the Yanks have to worry about the payroll to some extent.
I don't know to what extent, but to some extent. Okay. Well, they switched seats, but they're still having fun. I guess in their minds you could term this as a laugher. There's Chad Curtis.
You won't find any expressions to match those in the Texas dugout. It's 7-zip in 2 different ways on the scoreboard tonight and in the last 7 postseason games between these teams. A strike to Posada.
A little different attitude on the Texas Rangers side of the field.
This game is now exactly 3 hours old as the Yankees bat in the bottom of the 7th. And Posada slices one to left. Greer on the move, can't get to it. Cuts it off. Before it gets to the wall, Posada will try for a double anyway, and he'll make it.
Good hitting there by Posada. He takes the sinker and goes the other way with it. This is a good sinker. Look at the movement on the ball. Drops down and away, and he does a good job of going the other way with it. And Rusty Greer cannot cut it off in time to hold him to a single. And the relay back in, and Royce Clayton will give a quick shot to second, but sliding in safely is Jorge Posada.
Leday's 1 for 2 with a walk. Patterson misses outside. Joe, what do you think of this first round scheduling? In order to accommodate television, there are some odd off days. These 2 teams will be off tomorrow and then again off Friday between games 2 and 3. But if there is a 5th game, they'd have to come back from Texas Sunday night to play here in game 5 Monday.
Well, if you're a player, you would like to start the series, play the first 2 games, go to the opposing team's field, play the 2 games there, and then travel back here if necessary on an off day. But they have changed the way it's set up. But a lot of that, I think, has to do with the way they did it to accommodate the wild card and the team with the best record.
Leday skies one to left center field, tosses the bat aside in disgust as Greer squeezes it. Well, what this scheduling allows, I don't know if it'll happen at all this year, but for example, last year, Kevin Brown, then with the Padres, was able to start and win 2 of the first 3 games for San Diego against Houston. Now that's a distortion.
Well, it does play into the hands of a team that has one big horse. It gives them a chance to use him a couple of times and maybe even 3 times in a series.
Now it'll be Brocious. Bat in one hand, ice pack in the other. Don Zimmer armed for action. I'm beginning to suspect he has a transistor radio in there. Listening to John Sterling's radio call of the Yankee action. Brocious is 0 for 2 with a sacrifice bunt. Swing and a miss. Regardless of what you think about the expanded playoffs, I think you'd agree that if you're going to expand the playoffs, you have to play the first round best of 7. Now this year, all 8 qualifiers happen to be worthy teams, but in most years, if you're going to have 8 teams in, some are going to be notably more suspect than others. And you're going to have a wild card team in some years taking on a team that's won more than 100 games, and then you put that superior team in a best of 5 crapshoot, especially with this weird scheduling. And if the lesser team has one ace who they can throw at you a couple of times in the first 4 games, it really distorts the outcome.
Well, in a short series, the weaker team always has a better chance than they would have in a 7-game series.
And since the first round is the only one that's guaranteed to include the wild card and perhaps a weak division winner, not so this year, but perhaps, that's the one they've got to look at. Brocious grounds it towards Zia. Across the diamond, and Scott is retired. No runs, a hit, a man is left. We played 7 in New York. El Duque headed back out with a 7-0 lead. So with the Breeders' Cup coming up on NBC, we're reminded that just yesterday we were happy to conclude a deal that brings the Triple Crown to NBC. Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and Belmont beginning in 2001 on NBC. Well, Joe Torre said yesterday that it was a real toss-up as to who would start this series. He said, I could have picked it out of a hat. Certainly reason to go with David Cone, who's been a superb postseason pitcher. To go with a 5-time Cy Young Award winner, Roger Clemens, even though Clemens has had an off year by his standards. Or to go to El Duque. No one's going to criticize his choice after tonight. Hernandez working into the 8th. And starting McLemore with a strike.
And he also felt like Hernandez and Andy Pettit pitched better here in front of the home crowd. David Cone, Roger Clemens can handle whatever comes up on the road. He felt like they were better prepared to pitch on the road. El Duque likes this Yankee Stadium crowd, and so does Andy Pettit.
McLemore's 0 for 3. Pettit gets the ball a little bit less than 48 hours from now for game 2. Pettit reversed his form of a year ago, where he struggled in the second half. It actually came together for him after the All-Star game, with the exception of his last outing at Tampa. 4 innings, 6 runs, 6 hits, 6 walks. So he did not end the regular season on a high note. He'll face Rick Helling in game 2. The 3-1 pitch in there. But he loses him. That's the 6th walk issued by Hernandez. And it brings Mel Stottlemyre, the pitching coach, out of the dugout. Ivan Rodriguez will be the hitter, followed by Rusty Greer and Juan Gonzalez. Stanton, the lefty. Nelson, the right-hander, who was throwing earlier. It seems as if Hernandez understands what Stottlemyre is saying, because Posada's just listening. He's not interpreting. Just as Jim Joyce arrives to break it up, Stottlemyre turns and heads back for the dugout.
A pretty impressive line there, except for the 6 bases on ball.
Ivan Rodriguez has doubled, singled, lined hard to left. This was the 5th straight year that he topped 300. And he'll win his 8th consecutive Gold Glove. So he's always been terrific. He's always been an all-star. But this is his best year all round. And part of the reason may be that this was the first time he didn't play winter ball. And as the season moves along, especially in the heat of Texas, you can wear down a bit. Even a guy like Rodriguez. That didn't happen to him this year. Back to the mound. El Duque, who's a superb fielder, gets the force on the first. Double play. Once he delivers the pitch, he becomes a fifth infielder. That's how good he is.
And as you said, he's an excellent defensive pitcher. Once he gets into fielding position, watch where he ends up. He's prepared. Now watch, he catches this ball, finds the shortstop, throws it a little low, but he gets it there in time. Derek Jeter's able to turn it over. And they get 2.
So Greer, who's 0 for 2 with a couple of walks, bats with the bases empty. 2-0 to him. Aaron Seeley, the Texas starter, did not pitch badly. His defense in the bullpen betrayed him. 2-1. To second, Knobloch charges, throws, and retires Greer. The Yankees are 3 outs away from taking a 1-0 lead in the division series. And our thanks once again to the crew of the Goodyear Blimps, Stars and Stripes, looking down on Yankee Stadium, where 57,099 were here at the start of the game. Many have left. The Yankees drew over 3 million for the regular season for the first time in their history. The stars of the night thanking and congratulating each other. Hernandez with 8 shutout innings. Bernie Williams with a great defensive play to rob Juan Gonzalez of a possible extra base hit when it was still only a 1-0 game, and the Rangers had 2 men on in the 3rd inning, and then a 2-run double in the 5th and a 3-run homer in the 6th. Here's a look back at what Bernie has done tonight.
Excellent play, and as you mentioned, the game was still in doubt at that point, and this is what gave the Yankees somewhat a comfortable lead. And then this puts the game away for the Yankees and gives them a big lead. 5 RBIs tonight for Bernie Williams.
And he may get to swing the bat again if the Yankees can put a man on here at the bottom of the 8th. Top of the order, Knobloch, Jeter, O'Neill, and Williams if anyone reaches. Jim Gray told us a moment ago from downstairs that Hernandez is in fact finished. He threw 121 pitches, pitched 2 hit ball, walked 6 over 8 innings. Jeff Fassero, the veteran left-hander, who actually had a strong career record, well over 500, ERA about 3.40 for his career coming into this season, and then this disaster, first with Seattle and later with Texas. And the veteran was honest about it. He said this week, "My statistics stink because I stink."
You can see right there that Chuck Knobloch, he has a sore thumb, and he took a big swing, and he re-injured his thumb. You can see him grasping it there. Now watch this swing, a big swing, and he grabs his thumb immediately. And he's had this problem for, about 10 days now.
Left thumb, not the throwing hand. Down and in, 2-1. Knobloch's 1 for 3 with a walk tonight. Three and 1. Johnny Oates just trying to get Fassero some work here. Bringing him in the bottom of the 8th. Looks like Nelson will be asked to finish it for the Yankees in a non-save situation. That's a strike, full count. Baseball is a game of bouncing back. You play 162, and if you're pursuing the championship, there's now an expanded postseason. You have to be able to put things behind you. Grounded toward the hole, and it's Knobloch's second hit of the night. But I don't care how professional you are and how much success you've had outside these head-to-head confrontations with the Yankees. There are a lot of people who are going to be headed back to the hotel tonight to think it over with a day in between tomorrow night and off night. A lot of Texas Rangers will have to begin to wonder what it will take for them to beat the New York Yankees.
And if you're the manager, you probably wish you were playing tomorrow, Bob, so you could get right back out here, you know, and make a statement yourself. Now you're going to have one more day to think about it. The fact that you have, you know, you came in here thinking, well, we're a different ball club this year, and so are they. But so far, their pitching staff has still been able to hold down your big hitters in your lineup.
Although Knobloch can run, with the score 7-0, Stevens plays behind him at first. We were talking with Johnny Oates before the game, and he hearkened back to the difficulties they had against Seattle a few years ago. They couldn't seem to beat the Mariners. And he actually consulted a Dallas area psychologist and had him speak with some of the players.
And his suggestion was that maybe they should change the colors in the locker room, do a lot of little different things to change their outlook on the way that they view the Yankees. It hasn't worked yet. But it did work against Seattle.
When a psychologist shares his offices with an interior decorator, you begin to suspect his motives when he makes a recommendation like that.
Well, it worked against Seattle, but it hasn't. They need to do something to get the monkey off their back from the Yankees. But again, this is a pretty good Texas team. I expect them to bounce back. I really do. I think they're a pretty good team. And
fouled off, 2-2.
And I don't think that they've had bad games before, and they were able to bounce back during the season. True, it's a lot more difficult in a short series like this.
Gonzalez couldn't come through tonight with men on base, although he was robbed once. Greer, whom we saw a second before, lost the ball in the lights. That was the game's first run. Zeal kicked the ball at third, opened the door for the crusher, the 3-run homer by Bernie Williams, 4 unearned runs in the Yankee 6th. All outstanding players with long track records of success. Jeter with the walk. Knobloch pushed to second. Nobody out in the 8th. And that'll bring up Paul O'Neill. He's 1 for 3 with a walk. It was his hard-hit ground ball that Zeal couldn't handle just before the homer by Williams in the 6th. Swings and misses, strike 1. So the Yankees were supposed to be vulnerable, and in fact that may still prove to be true. The postseason is a long haul now that the playoffs have been expanded, but there's no sign of it tonight from Joe Torre's team.
Bob, one thing if you're the Rangers you have to be afraid of also is the fact that you do not have a left-hander to come out of the bullpen to stymie some of these Yankee hitters. Venafro came in and he wasn't able to stem the tide, and now Facero trying to pitch the bottom of the 8th inning, he's in trouble right away.
And his 0-1 pitch to O'Neill is in there. Well, they had another lefty, Mike Munoz, who had been very effective, and he's out of the playoffs no matter how long the Rangers last. He injured his foot when he was pulling a new computer out of a box and dropped it on his foot.
Well, that's a very bad break for the Rangers and also for Munoz.
Well said.
No pun intended.
Munoz getting a jump on his Y2K problem. Having a computer problem before the end of the millennium. A called third strike to O'Neill. And a standing ovation from the remaining fans at Yankee Stadium for Bernie Williams. Chance to pad that RBI total. They check it first. No. Ball one. Tino Martinez waiting on deck. Toward the hole and through for a base hit. Here comes Knobloch, waved home by Willie Randolph. 6 RBIs for Bernie Williams tonight.
And remember last year against Texas, he was 0 for 11. So he's trying to make up for it in one night. Fastball up, and he rips it in the hole. Good job of base running by Chuck Knobloch to be able to score. And Knobloch, you see, got a great jump on the ball, and he scores easily from second base.
So Williams has doubled, homered, and singled in his last 3 trips. Up steps Martinez. 1 for 3 with a walk thrown in. 8 runs, 10 hits, no errors for New York. 0-2-1 for Texas. Fly ball right field. Juan Gonzalez makes the play. Runner tags and moves to third, so first and third with 2 down on the New York 8th. And now the second at bat for Leyritz, this time against a left-handed pitcher. When they announced him for Strawberry in the 7th, Oates went to the bullpen for a right-hander. Williams at first, Jeter at third. A run home in the 8th. 8-0 New York. Leyritz hits with 2 outs.
And Joe Torre's getting Jim Leyritz a couple of bats in this ball game. Everything has worked out very well for the Yankees.
Even Zim seems to be feeling better. One to center, but Goodwin has it lined up. The Yankees tack on another, and after 8 they lead by 8. Nelson will come on to try and finish it with plenty of room to spare.
Jay welcomes Jenny McCarthy, Clint Black, and the champions of the game. Len Berman is live at Yankee.
Joe Torre goes to his bench and his bullpen. As we move to the 9th, Chad Curtis will get a little time in left field. Paul O'Neill, who wasn't right, is out of the game. Ricky Leday goes from left to right. And Jeff Nelson will be asked to close it out with an 8-0 lead.
I think Jeff Nelson's a big, important part of this bullpen if they're going to be able to repeat as world champions. He was an integral part last year, and he needs to pick up again where he left off.
Juan Gonzalez starts it in the 9th. 0 for 2 with a walk. Gonzalez will be 30 in about a week or so. He already has 340 career home runs. That's impressive.
Very impressive.
But Ken Griffey Jr. won't be 30 until next month and he's at almost 400.
398 or 9.
Yeah, 398, I think it is.
98 or 9. Yeah, right in there.
And he's the guy most people say has the best chance, if anybody has a shot, at overtaking Hank Aaron for the all-time home run leadership.
Yeah, but I tell you what, if McGuire keeps hitting 63, he'll get there pretty quick also.
Gonzalez gets back to the dugout pretty quick, down on strikes. And a night to forget for him.
I think I saw a number that said if McGuire hits 60 home runs for the next 3 years, he will have one more than Babe Ruth.
Well, let's see. He's at 522. He went past Williams and McCovey.
So he needs 63 a year for 3 more. That'll be 189.
Well, he needs to get to 715 to nudge past the Babe. He's roughly 3 seasons like the last couple away.
Right.
Of course, he's got a few years on Griffey, so you have to wonder how long he can sustain it. Palmeiro's retired. Knobloch to Martinez. Can't tell by the expression, but he's winning 8-0. Meanwhile, the other New York team has begun its game at Arizona, and they've taken a 1-0 lead on Randy Johnson and the D-backs. Edgardo Alfonso is homered, we're told. And earlier today, Houston beats Atlanta 6-1. Caminiti homers. Reynolds beats Maddox. A strike to Zeal. One strike away from finishing it. This will be the Yankees' 8th postseason win in a row. After they were down 2-1 against the Indians, they won 3 straight against Cleveland, swept San Diego in the World Series, and now they're about to go up 1-0 on Texas. Popped over toward the stands wide of first, no play for Martinez.
Well, this may not be as good a team as they had last year record-wise, but you've got Derek Jeter, who is a better player this year than he was last year. You have Derek Jeter, who's better. You have Bernie Williams, who looks like he's better. A couple of guys' numbers fell off a little bit, but I mean, they're still a very, very good ball club, and they're a very intelligent ball club with a lot of experience.
And a team with 4 100 RBI men and a 5th, this guy Zeal with 98, held to just 2 measly hits tonight, both of them by Ivan Rodriguez.
And I definitely didn't believe that they could shut the Rangers down totally as they have done.
The 1-2 pitch. Misses 2-2. Game 2 starter Andy Pettitte, a serene figure in the Yankee dugout. Nelson's 2-2 pitch, full count. The veteran Nelson is 32 years old. Was with the Mariners from 92 to 95. With the Yankees the second half of the decade. 6'8", 235 in his 8th big league season. And he walked Zeal to prolong the 9th. Nelson was 2-1 this year. His ERA was 4.15. Basically used in middle relief or as a setup man.
First baseman, Lee Stevens.
Joe Torre shaking his head, perhaps thinking, what have you got to lose by just laying it in there? We're trying to get out of here. Swing and a miss by Lee Stevens.
Manager never likes to see a guy walk hitters when you have a large lead.
you're just looking forward to a late dinner. Sliced foul. Again, a strike away. This game is at 3 hours and 36 minutes and counting. Not a minute of it much fun for Johnny Oates. Nelson's 0-2 pitch. In the air to center. It's fitting that Bernie Williams should end it. So the Yankees take the first step in pursuit of their 36th pennant and 25th World Championship. The customary Frank Sinatra serenade as the Yankees put Game 1 in the books. We'll be back.